What are you doing here? Her cold gaze, filled with contempt for me as a janitor, made my body freeze as if doused with cold water. I couldn't move a muscle. She was my first love. As I tried to say something, I was met with curious stares from her group. Ha! You know him? No way, who'd be friends with a janitor? I wanted to force a smile to hide my feelings, but my face stiffened, unable to move. However, that encounter would become a turning point in my life. She took my hand, blushing, and asked, "I want to thank you. Are you free tonight? My name is Alex. I'm 26 years old, and work as a janitor in a large corporate building. Every day, I strive to keep the office spotless, aiming for a place without a single speck of dust." Just as I was engrossed in my work, an older, experienced janitor named Carol, who had been happily chatting nearby, called out to me. "Alex, how long are you going to take? We have to clean this whole floor today. If you keep being so meticulous, we'll never finish before sundown." "Oh, sorry. I just couldn't ignore this smudge on the handrail. Because of my personality, I can't help but focus on the details, and I often get scolded for it." Carol, seeing my concern, smiled at me with a look of exasperation. "Honestly, kid, you're way too serious for someone your age. You need to manage your time better, or you'll miss lunch again. What a troublesome boy you are. Now, give me that cloth." "Thank you so much." Despite her grumbling, Carol never abandons me and always lends a hand, treating me like a son. I look up to Carol like a second mother, and I think we make a pretty good team. As we were cleaning the floor together, I noticed a group of well-dressed men and women, presumably employees of the company, approaching from the other end of the hallway. The person in the center of the group caught my eye, making me freeze for a moment. It was Emily, a classmate from high school. Emily also looked shocked when she saw me. "What are you doing here?" Noticing the awkwardness between us, her colleagues began to mockingly chime in. "Wait, you know him, Emily? No way. She wouldn't know a janitor. No chance. We live in completely different worlds." Emily muttered under her breath, "I don't associate with dropouts," before walking past me. Even after they left, I couldn't move and just stood there, frozen. Noticing how out of it I was, Carol, who's known for being the gossip among the janitors, informed me. "She's such a rude woman. Apparently, that pretty face of hers belongs to some top-tier elite they headhunted from somewhere. Supposedly, she's really smart." Listening to Carol's playful, exaggerated tone, I found myself drifting back to my high school days. Emily and I were in the same class during our junior year. She was the daughter of a well-off family and the center of attention in class. Always at the top of the class, the ace of the tennis team, and effortlessly playing piano for the choir during competitions, a real prodigy. And on top of all that, she was stunningly beautiful. Even as a high schooler, I was amazed that someone so perfect could exist. In my youthful infatuation, I had a crush on this perfect girl, Emily. I'm pretty sure that was my first love. One day after school, I can't remember what I said, but I finally gathered the courage to speak to Emily. She briefly looked at me with a twisted expression, glaring at me with cold eyes, but said nothing. I had no idea what I had done to make her so angry. And then I remembered something I had glossed over in my memories. Emily had always been incredibly arrogant. Of course, she wouldn't want anyone to know she's acquainted with a lowly janitor. She was always so full of pride. I never imagined that this encounter would set off a chain of events that would turn my life around. That night, I was scheduled for the night shift, so I began working after the company had closed for the day. Night cleaning allows us to clean places we can't during the day, and the work goes much faster in an empty office. In the stark contrast to the bustling daytime, I quietly went about my work in the silent office. As I moved on to the next room, I noticed a light shining from a room behind a frosted glass door. It wasn't the busy season, and I had heard from the security guard that most employees had left on time. So I didn't expect anyone to be working late. Not wanting to disturb anyone still working, I decided to clean that room last and started with the other rooms. After finishing the cleaning in the other rooms, I opened the door to the one with the lights still on. To my surprise, the room was empty. I looked around, but there was no one in sight. Thinking the person might have stepped out for a break or gone to the restroom, I decided to clean the room quickly while they were gone. But just as I was about to start, I noticed a dark figure moving by the cabinet at the back of the office, muttering something to themselves. What? Is someone there? Wait, it's not a ghost, is it? That's creepy. What the heck? Why aren't these in order by date? What is this? It makes no sense. When I got closer, I realized the dark figure was Emily, crouched in front of the cabinet. My heart raced at the sudden appearance of my first crush, but I couldn't just ignore her distress, so I gathered my courage and spoke up. Do you need any help? Ah! Emily jumped, startled, and fell backward, landing on her behind. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. I quickly apologized and tried to offer her a hand, but she ignored it, standing up on her own, leaving my hand awkwardly hanging in the air. What do you want? To make up for scaring her, I offered to help her find what she was looking for. Ah, here it is. Is this everything? It was placed pretty high up. Here you go. I handed Emily the files she had been searching for. She took the files from me with a bitter expression and said, "Why are you speaking so formally? We were classmates, right? You can just talk normally. It's kind of awkward otherwise." I was thrilled that Emily remembered me, and without thinking, I blurted out, "You remember me," in an excited tone. Emily quickly looked away, muttering, "Of course I do," before adding, "But I don't like you." I could only respond with a weak, "Huh? That's really disappointing." From that day on, helping Emily with her work after my night shift became a daily routine. The reason this is happening is because Emily, in her incredibly roundabout way, said, "I don't like you, Alex, but if you want to help, I'll let you." That's when she asked me for help. At first, she only trusted me with simple tasks like fetching documents or making copies, but since I actually have an IQ of 180, I quickly mastered anything she taught me. When Emily realized this, she stared at me in disbelief, so I asked curiously, "Is something wrong?" "Nothing at all," she replied, clearly flustered, turning away with her usual huff. "What's going on? Please don't turn away like that, it makes me sad." By the 5th day of her overtime, we finally finished the work that night. Emily, relieved, stretched her arms wide and said with a bright smile, "Finally done." I also praised Emily for her hard work with a good job, but honestly, I felt a bit disappointed that our time alone together was coming to an end. "All right. Let's go grab a drink." "What?" The place Emily chose was surprisingly a casual pub joint. The place was buzzing with the voices of already tipsy customers, so loud that it drowned out the background music. Emily and I sat side by side at the counter. As she wiped her hands with a damp towel, she asked, "Beer okay with you?" I was thirsty, so I readily agreed. Emily turned to the bartender and called out, "3 beers, please." "Huh? Didn't you just say 3? Is someone else joining us?" Worried that our alone time might be interrupted, I must have made a funny face because Emily, flipping through the skewer menu, laughed and said, "I like to start with 2 beers at once." Surprised you, didn't I? Realizing no one else was coming, I did a little happy dance in my mind. When the 3 beers arrived, we toasted and congratulated ourselves on getting through the week. Emily downed her first beer quickly, finishing it in no time. While sipping her second, she said, "Tonight's on me, so don't hold back, drink up." I noticed her second glass was already half empty. Despite being so beautiful, her ability to drink like a man was truly impressive. That contrast was oddly appealing. Is this what people mean when they talk about the charm of contradictions? After a few beers, I started looking over the drink menu, thinking about ordering some wine. Beside me, Emily, who was nibbling on the endless supply of edamame, suddenly began to speak. "I don't like you, but I hate Mr. Walker's son, John, even more." Realizing she was starting to rant, I nodded and encouraged her, "Yeah?" And then, without even glancing my way, she continued talking as if to herself. "He's always dumping impossible tasks on me. Do this, do that, what's this, how did you do that, explain this. I'm not his personal secretary. I've got my own work to do. Why can't he handle his own stuff? Is he a baby? Is that why he's always clinging to me? Clinging to you. When I blurted out in surprise, Emily turned toward me and said, "Oh, I didn't realize you were there," before continuing her story. "Yeah, you're still here, huh? I don't know if it's because he's been to the States or what, but he's always in my personal space." Like, who hugs someone when they first meet? You don't, right? He's always touchy-feely, acting all Western. It's unbearable. This is Japan. For crying out loud. A kiss on the cheek as a greeting? No way. I pushed him away just in time. Good job, me. As if fueled by her memories, Emily stabbed her chopsticks into a piece of karage in front of her. Clearly frustrated, she munched on the fried chicken, grumbling, "He really pisses me off." I couldn't help but notice how different her impression of John was from what Carol had told me before. I was drinking wine, and when Emily was drinking whiskey with hot water, she looked curious and asked me what I was thinking. "So, why are you working as a janitor? You were so smart, always top of the class. It seems like such a waste." Expecting some grand reason, she seemed disappointed when I explained the simple truth. "Well, as you know, I had to drop out of high school when I couldn't afford the tuition, so my highest level of education is middle school. Nowadays, the only places that'll hire someone with that background are part-time jobs or manual labor. I was lucky to find this cleaning company that didn't care about my education, so here I am. In this industry, a young guy with physical strength is in high demand." Emily's face twisted with frustration at my straightforward answer, and she loudly exclaimed, "Ah! That's so annoying." Exhausted from all the overtime, Emily slumped over the counter, nearly falling asleep right then and there. A college-aged waiter approached us, looking apologetic. "Sorry, but we're about to close." Emily had already taken care of the bill before she got too drunk, but the real issue was her. I tried to wake her by gently shaking her shoulder. She briefly lifted her head, gave a lazy smile, and then slumped back down on the table. How was I going to get her home? In the end, I caved under the silent pressure from the waiter who clearly wanted us to leave. So I hoisted Emily onto my back and carried her out of the restaurant. As we stepped outside into the cool night air, she began to stir on my back. Thinking she might be waking up, I called out to her, but there was no response. Realizing she was still asleep, I started walking toward the main street, hoping to catch a cab. Suddenly, Emily, in a much softer and more affectionate voice than usual, began to mumble something. "I say I don't like you, Alex, but the truth is, I don't dislike you at all. Actually, I really like you. But I'm too embarrassed to say it. So I won't. So you'd better not tell Alex, okay?" Hearing those words, I instinctively tightened my grip on the back of Emily's knees. At the same time, the realization that I was carrying her on my back hit me again. And my heart started pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. Did she just say she likes me? I don't know how long I stood there like that. Suddenly, Emily, now more awake, began to squirm on my back and lightly punched my shoulder. "Hey! Put me down," she demanded in her usual tone. So I quickly set her down. She seemed a bit embarrassed, perhaps realizing she'd been carried on my back. "I can't believe this. Thank God I wasn't wearing a skirt," she muttered, clearly flustered, her ears turning bright red despite her complaints. I couldn't help but be struck by how unexpectedly cute she was, so different from her usual tough demeanor, and my heart wouldn't stop racing. We walked to the main street, but no taxis were in sight. As we stood there waiting, Emily suddenly suggested something outrageous. "If we can't get a taxi, maybe I could crash at your place, Alex." What? Unfortunately, a taxi pulled up right then. Reluctant to let her go, I instinctively grabbed Emily's arm as she was about to get in. She turned to me with a shy smile and said, "Too bad, maybe next time," before getting in the cab and heading home. After that, whenever we ran into each other at work, we started talking more. "Hey, Emily. Looks like you're not doing overtime anymore. How's work? Getting used to it?" "Hey, Alex. Yeah, I'm getting the hang of it, but sometimes I still hit a wall. Could I ask for your advice again sometime?" Since then, she's been coming to me for advice, and though I wasn't sure if my input was really helpful, I have to admit, it felt great to be needed by someone I liked. I tried hard not to let it show, but I couldn't help grinning as I said, "Of course. Feel free to ask anytime. Sometimes an outsider's perspective can be valuable." I tried to play it cool, but inside, I was over the moon. Unaware of my feelings, Emily smiled warmly and said, "It's great to have a reliable classmate like you. See you later," before walking off. As I stood there, trying to contain my excitement, Carol, who had been watching us while wiping down a nearby plant, spoke up. "That girl's really changed since the beginning, hasn't she? She's nothing like the others here, seems like a good kid." Hearing Carol praise the girl I liked made me feel a strange sense of pride. Right? She's really a great person. She even talks to someone like me without any pretense. I must have been showing my feelings more than I thought because Carol gave me a knowing grin and said, "Oh my, you've really got it bad for that girl. But listen, with someone that beautiful and kind, if you don't step up, some other guy's gonna snatch her away in no time. So, you better go for it," and Carol playfully smacked my back hard. Ouch. That really hurt. But yeah, you're right, I've got to get my act together. One day, I ran into Emily at work. And we were chatting like usual when a male employee walked by and deliberately dropped some trash right in front of me. I had a bad feeling as I looked up at the guy. He was wearing a sharp, tailored suit and had a smug grin on his tanned face. He crossed his arms and said just one word. "Pick it up." As I was thinking, who the hell is this guy? Emily suddenly turned pale and shouted at him. "John! What are you doing?" "John? Oh, so this is John, Mr. Walker's son. Emily, stay out of this. People like him get uppity when you're too nice. Now, hurry up and pick it up." "Stop it. That's awful." "Alex, you don't have to pick it up." "Emily, it's fine. It's my job." I bent down and picked up the trash. John looked down at me with disdain and said, "Guys like you, janitors, will never be on the same level as us. Emily, you're smart, so don't hang around someone this low. It'll just make you look bad too. And don't defend another guy in front of your boyfriend, it's disrespectful." "Boyfriend?" I was shocked by this revelation, while Emily desperately tried to explain, "No. We're not dating." But at that moment, I didn't know what to believe anymore. John sneered, "Come on, Emily," and forcibly pulled her close by the shoulder, leading her away despite her protests. As I knelt there, picking up the remaining trash, I noticed several pairs of shoes in my peripheral vision. I looked up to see John's entourage surrounding me, looking down with smug expressions. Did that janitor seriously think he had a chance? No way. That's ridiculous. How delusional can you get? Totally shameless. Did he really think he could date Emily? She's got a high-class boyfriend like John. The usual elite crowd was talking loud enough for me to hear, but I couldn't care less. All I could do was watch Emily, who kept glancing back at me with a troubled expression as she was pulled away. I felt utterly pathetic. But more than anything, I was devastated by the fact that Emily and John were dating. Sigh. I lost count of how many times I sighed that day. I couldn't get Emily and John out of my head. I was so distracted that I wasn't making any progress with my work. Noticing this, Carol came over and said, "Alex, you okay? I'll handle this room. Why don't you go take care of the reception area? Come on. Off you go." She practically shoved me out of the room, leaving me no choice but to head to the reception area. But as I was leaving, I saw something that made me stop in my tracks. There was John, standing next to Emily, with his arm around her waist, leaning in close as he talked to her. Carol, who had been pushing me from behind, noticed I'd suddenly stopped and asked, "What's wrong?" But I couldn't say anything. Following my gaze, Carol saw what I was looking at and said sadly, "I'm sorry, Alex. I was trying to get you away from here so you wouldn't have to see that." That afternoon, I continued cleaning with a heavy heart. What was I even hoping for? John was right. Emily and I live in completely different worlds. When did I start thinking I might actually have a chance with her? As I sighed for the umpteenth time, I saw Carol running down the hallway, looking flustered. "Alex. Something's wrong. That pretty girl, what's her name again? Emily? Yes. Emily. She's in trouble. According to Carol, she had been cleaning in the hallway near the meeting room, as usual, while keeping an ear out for the latest gossip. Suddenly, the noise inside the room grew louder, as if a commotion was starting. Soon, the commotion escalated into a heated argument. Sensing that something noteworthy was happening, Carol decided to listen more closely at the door. To her surprise, she heard Emily's voice from inside the room. It seemed like she was being scolded for a serious mistake, which is why Carol rushed to find me. I thanked Carol for telling me and hurried toward the meeting room. But as I stood outside the door, I realized something: I'm not even an employee of this company. I'm an outsider. If I barged in there, they'd probably just see me as some weirdo and throw me out. Thinking it wouldn't be wise to rush in, I decided to wait for the right moment to step in. As I listened in on the conversation from outside the meeting room, I realized John was trying to pin his mistake on Emily. I'm not at fault, right? I told you to calculate using data from the past 10 years, didn't I? That's not true. You told me that using last year's data would be sufficient. I have the email you sent with those instructions right here. Emily responded, showing him the email. But John wasn't backing down. I told you later to use the 10-year data. This is why you're useless, Emily. Hanging around that worthless janitor must be making you dumber. His manipulation was met with snickers from the others in the room. John then turned to the room and continued, I apologize for the inconvenience caused by my incompetent subordinate. We'll have someone else recalculate the numbers, and we can move on to the next proposal. He was about to carry on with the meeting when I could no longer stand by and opened the door. The room fell silent as everyone turned to see a janitor, an obvious outsider, suddenly step in. Someone quickly dismissed me, thinking I was just there to clean. We're busy right now, so can you clean later? I can handle the calculations, I said, addressing the room full of elite employees and business partners. Everyone stared at me, mouths agape. Get out of here, outsider. Who does this guy think he is? Throw him out. This is a meeting. You can't just barge in. Someone call security. The room erupted in shouts, some mocking, others angry, while the business partners looked bewildered. John sneered at me, utterly condescending. This isn't your place, janitor. Get out. The exit is over there. He pointed to the door with a smug look. His entourage of elites burst into laughter at his words. Go ahead and get back to cleaning. Hey, I spilled my tea here because of you. Mind wiping it up, they taunted. Ignoring them, Emily walked over to me with some documents. She handed me the papers and quickly explained what needed to be done. Emily then took the revised numbers I gave her and said, here is the corrected data, projecting the updated figures for everyone to see. John immediately objected. What? Are you kidding me? What kind of nonsense is this? This is completely fabricated. It's not fabricated. These calculations are accurate. Emily fired back. There's no way you could have recalculated all this in such a short time. Well, we did. Do you even know who Alex is? He's a genius who won the national math competition hosted by a top university. He's not like the rest of us. I never beat him in grades, not even once in high school. Emily's voice rang with pride as she spoke about me. As I listened, memories of my past came flooding back. I had always been a bright child, excelling in everything. My IQ was tested at 180, and I was often called a prodigy during elementary school. I was good at every subject, but math was my true strength. My mother once told me that when I was in kindergarten, I could solve problems from high school entrance exams. When it came time for high school, I planned to attend a prestigious public school on a scholarship. Given our financial situation, just my mother and me. But after winning a math competition, I received a scholarship to attend a private school known for its elite status. They offered me a full tuition waiver, and I accepted. I lived up to the school's expectations by winning the math competition. However, the victory led to a whirlwind of events, banquets hosted by school alumni and local dignitaries. constant media interviews prying into my personal life. I was sick of it all. Alex, your mom raised you on her own, didn't she? Yes, that's right. Your dad's never been around? I don't have a father. Have you ever met him? Any memories of him? Why is that relevant? My father has nothing to do with this award. I hated how every interview seemed to dig into why my mother was a single parent, how my father left after an affair, and other painful details. It made me despise the reporters. But the worst part was that I was losing time to study math, the subject I loved, because the school kept scheduling interviews and social events without my consent. It stressed me out so much that I began canceling and refusing the school's demands. One day, I was summoned to the principal's office by Dr. Harris. I reluctantly went, expecting another interview, but instead, Dr. Harris told me bluntly, "You know, Alex, we admitted you to this school to showcase the mathematical genius we have here, right? Yeah, I get that. Your role at this school is to promote us as a leading institution in mathematics. In other words, you're our school's poster boy. But that's not what I signed up for. The deal was that I just had to win the math competition." What are you talking about? It doesn't end with just winning the competition. Lately, you've been turning down interviews and skipping the social events, haven't you? That's because I asked them to stop invading my privacy. Enough. If this continues, we'll revoke your tuition waiver. If you want to stay at this school, you'll have to pay the same tuition as the other students. That's a problem. We can't afford that kind of money. Since we were never wealthy, there was no way my family could pay the private school's tuition. In the end, I had to drop out. With no motivation left, I didn't enroll in any other high school and just worked part-time jobs. Which is why I only have a middle school education. Back in the meeting room, someone quickly checked the calculations on a computer. A surprised voice announced, "These numbers are correct." "It seems the janitor's calculations were accurate," said David, a client, letting out a heavy sigh. John, furious, snapped, "So what if the calculations are right? What you did is still obstruction. Remember that, you piece of trash." I fixed John with a steely gaze and replied, "Yes, I understand. I'm not here to show off my math skills. I'm here because I couldn't stand to see Emily being unfairly blamed. Isn't it a manager's job to protect their team? Instead, you shifted the blame onto her to save yourself. That's why I felt compelled to speak up." "What?" "Yes, I'm just a janitor, but I take pride in my work. I believe everyone here does too. But there's nothing more humiliating than having that pride trampled by your own superior." I found myself reflecting on my past. The bitterness of having my future crushed by the selfish pressures of those in power. My fists clenched tightly with the memory of that frustration. It was David who broke the tense silence. Indeed, he's right. "John, I'm sorry, but we'll have to continue this discussion another time." With that, David declared the meeting over and stood up to leave. The room buzzed with murmurs. John was apologizing repeatedly to David, trying to make amends. I watched this unfold, feeling detached, until Emily walked over, took my hand, and said, "Thank you, Alex. You were amazing." Her words made my face flush red, but before I could respond, another person suddenly grabbed my hand, startling me. "Wow, you're incredible. I could tell you were no ordinary guy just by watching you do those calculations earlier. I've never met a math competition winner in person before. You really are a genius." The excited man was one of the clients who had been serious during the meeting. I was caught off guard by his enthusiasm but realized who he was. Feeling embarrassed, I reluctantly agreed to take a photo with him on his phone. What just happened? As exhaustion washed over me, Emily, her cheeks flushed, said, "I'd like to thank you for today. Are you free tonight?" That evening, Emily took me to a stylish bar with a stunning view of the city lights. Feeling completely out of place, I was nervous, which made Emily laugh. We were seated at a cozy two-person sofa by the window, and I was mesmerized by the dazzling night view. Emily smiled warmly at me, her beauty making my heart race even more. "Since we're in such a lovely setting, let's order drinks that suit the atmosphere," she said, choosing a cocktail for me. I ended up with a martini, while Emily ordered a Manhattan. As we slowly sipped our delicious cocktails and enjoyed the view, Emily began to speak. You know, I used to dislike you, Alex. What? Emily chuckled mischievously and continued, her gaze growing distant. Emily came from a well-known family and was raised as a model student with excellent grades and impeccable manners. She had an older brother and sister, both of whom graduated from prestigious universities. Her brother worked for a listed company, and her sister was stationed abroad with a multinational corporation. Growing up in such a family, she was under constant pressure to excel academically and maintain her reputation. While she struggled to stay at the top, she couldn't help but envy and resent me for being naturally gifted and able to maintain a scholarship without any apparent effort. One day, something happened that made her dislike me even more. That day, Emily couldn't finish a math assignment during class, so she stayed behind after school to work on it alone in the classroom. That's when I approached her and offered, "Need some help," in what she perceived as a condescending tone, which made her so angry that she ignored me. Wait, that scene. Isn't that when I tried to talk to you and you ignored me? Was it really because of that? Did I really come off as arrogant? But soon after, when I dropped out of school, Emily realized something important. Everyone carries wounds that others can't see. And then, slowly, she continued. Even though you had your own pain, Alex, I only saw what was on the surface. After you left, I realized I had admired you all along, but by then, it was too late, and I never saw you again. Hearing Emily's unexpected confession from years ago, I decided to be honest about my own feelings. I've always liked you, Emily, back then, and of course, even now. I admired how hard you worked, and I still do. Emily's eyes widened as she stared at me, her words coming out in a fluster. I don't like you at all, Alex. Not even a little. You're just someone who's a bit better at math than others and has a big brain. And what's with you being so tall? What did you eat to grow that much? And don't think you can get away with being good-looking. Just because some of the women at work are fawning over you doesn't mean you should get all smug. I hate how you're so nice to everyone. You should only talk to me, not other people. I hate you, Alex. I really do. As she rambled on about all the things she supposedly hated about me, her eyes started to well up with tears. Oh man, this is way too cute. I couldn't help but say aloud. Hey, it sounds like you really like me, doesn't it? Emily's face turned bright red, and tears began to spill from her beautiful eyes. Unable to hold back any longer, she finally admitted, I like you a lot, through her tears. After that, the business deal was called off entirely. John was held responsible and was reassigned to a remote location. Despite his tearful pleas to his father, Mr. Walker, even his own father was disappointed, reportedly saying, he never realized his son was such a fool. As for me, I took responsibility for the disruption I caused during the meeting and resigned from the cleaning company. Parting ways with Carol, who had treated me like a son, was difficult. Carol, thank you for everything. You've been so good to me, I said, my voice thick with emotion. With tears in her eyes, Carol patted my shoulder hard, as usual, and said, you can always come back, but honestly, Alex, you shouldn't. You're destined for greater things. Ha! Don't end up here. Go out there and make the most of your talents. Her words brought tears to my eyes as well, but I steeled myself, slapping my cheeks to get my focus back. All right. Time to get going. So, what am I going to do now that I've lost my job as a janitor? Well, it turns out that the client from that meeting was from a pretty big company. Impressed by my abilities, they offered me a job, saying, we don't care about your academic background, we need your talent. It was basically a headhunting offer. Emily also decided to leave her job due to the stress of working with John and her concerns about the company's future. She joined the same company as me. Now, Emily and I work together, rivals at work, but partners in life, helping the company grow and expand its business. So, Emily, have you thought about our future? What? Like what we're having for dinner tonight? No, I mean our future, as in us. Our future? Well, looks like someone started thinking seriously about that, Alex? I'm seriously considering marriage with Emily, but I have no idea what she thinks about it. This is one problem that can't be solved with an equation, so I'm thinking about asking Carol for advice. She's got a lot of life experience, and I could really use her help to give me the push I need when it comes to Emily. And with that, my story comes to an end. Although I ended up dropping out of school and spent years with my life on hold, reuniting with Emily set everything back in motion. I've proven that even without a formal education, talent and ability can still be recognized. I don't know what challenges lie ahead, but with a trustworthy partner by my side, I'm ready to face whatever comes our way. My mom quietly gazed out the window and then, in a barely audible voice, she said, "If you had a family, maybe I could leave this world in peace." What? My dream was to hold my grandchild. Haha, just kidding. She wants to see a grandchild? This was the first time I had heard her say something like that. Actually, I've been dating one of the nurses here. We've been together for a year now. I blurted out this lie without thinking. Then, a woman approached me and said, "I'll pretend to be your girlfriend. My name is Eli. Today, I turned 44 years old. I was sitting at home alone, eating canned soup. I'm too old for birthday cake. Besides, since I turned 35, I haven't really had much of a sweet tooth. Even now, at 44, I'm still single. And I have a mother who's in the hospital. Her name is Sadie. She's a very kind and strong woman. Hurry up and do your homework. You can't have dinner until it's done. If you don't like it, then get studying, now." She used to say things like this when I was little. My mom divorced when she was young, and she raised me all by herself. Because of that, my mom was both my mom and my dad. She was the one who praised me. She was the one who scolded me. Even without a father, I never felt lonely. My mom's presence was that big in my life. But even she can't fight against the flow of time. It's been 3 months since she was hospitalized. It's not an incurable illness, but it's not something she can easily be discharged from either. Every day after work, I go to the hospital and talk to her about all sorts of things. "You don't have to come every day, you know? I'm sure work is busy. And besides, this is all just a bit much." I keep telling them I'm fine. But they still want me to stay here. "You're not fine. You need to listen to what everyone's telling you and not cause any trouble, okay? Do you think I'm a baby or something? I'm not causing any trouble. Are you sure you're not being too loud, or bothering anyone with your snoring? You've gotten cheeky. Come here. Let me pinch those cheeks of yours." She seemed so lively that it was hard to believe she was in the hospital. No, she was probably just putting on a brave face. She's not the type to show weakness in front of her child, and that made me feel a little sad. But it was also comforting to see her acting like her usual self. My days are filled with work and visits to the hospital. Since I never had any hobbies, it wasn't a burden. "You know, it's nice that you come to see me every day, but don't you ever hang out with friends or go on dates?" "Mom, that's none of your business. Besides, I do find time to hang out, so don't worry." "Well, if you say so." She looked at me with a probing gaze. She was probably wondering if I had a girlfriend. Of course, she was. After all, I'm 44 now. And she doesn't know how much longer she'll be around. She's probably worried about leaving me behind in this state. When I was younger, I did want to get married. I imagined a life where I'd be married, living with kids. But now, I don't really feel the desire to get married anymore. That change of heart started because of that incident. When I was 32, I bought a ring to propose to my girlfriend. I secretly prepared everything, booked a slightly expensive dinner, planning to celebrate our 4th anniversary together. But she never showed up. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes passed. I started to worry that she might have been in an accident. But when 2 hours went by and she still hadn't come, I had a sinking feeling. So, I went home alone, feeling miserable. She finally came back the next morning, in tears, apologizing. When I confronted her, she confessed everything right away. She had been with her ex. And it wasn't just a simple meeting. She had betrayed me. Apparently, she had a feeling I was going to propose. Maybe she wanted to have a little fun before settling down. That might have been what she was thinking. I couldn't trust her anymore, and after she left, I threw the ring I had bought into the trash. Of course, we broke up, and I haven't dated anyone since. I was devastated that someone as kind and pure as she was had cheated on me. No matter how much you love someone or how long you're together, some people still cheat. What if I found out she was the type who would cheat after marriage? What if I was being betrayed and just didn't realize it? These thoughts made me slightly distrustful of people. And so, I decided I wouldn't get married. I felt sorry for my mom because of the choice I made. Not getting married means she'll never have grandchildren. But my mom never brought it up, not even once. Your happiness is my happiness. She would say that, and never pressured me into anything. I wonder what mom really thinks. Does she want me to get married? I muttered to myself, as I was about to leave the hospital. You're Sadie's son, right? Oh, yes. The person who spoke to me was a nurse who's been taking care of my mom. Thank you for always looking after my mom. I hope she hasn't been causing any trouble. Oh, not at all. She's always so cheerful, and she actually lifts everyone's spirits. Everyone says she's like our mother. You're really lucky to have such a great mom. Yeah, she does kind of have that everyone's mom vibe. I get it. Please come visit again. Of course. I'll come by after work tomorrow. I'm sure Sadie will be looking forward to it. The nurse had a name tag that said Ava on it. I hadn't talked much with Ava, just exchanged a few greetings here and there. She's a very beautiful woman and seems to have a great reputation among the staff. My mom often praised Ava too. She'd say her work was meticulous and that she was kind. I felt reassured knowing that if I left everything to her, things would be okay. The next day, I went to visit my mom as usual. But something felt off. There was a sense of urgency in the air. A bad feeling washed over me as I entered the hospital room, where I saw doctors and nurses bustling around. My mom was clutching her chest, breathing heavily in distress. I tried to rush to her side, but Ava stopped me. Please wait outside, she said urgently. But I wanted to be by my mom's side, but I knew there was nothing I could do. I swallowed my words and waited outside the room. After a while, Dr. Thompson, her attending physician, came out and explained the situation to me. He told me that her condition had stabilized for now. But there was no telling when it might happen again. I listened quietly and then went home that day. The fear that my mom might not be around much longer. That fear consumed me. The thought of my once vibrant mom being gone? If she's gone, I'd truly be all alone. I'm not married, I don't have siblings. My mom had been my emotional anchor. I thought I was the one supporting her by visiting, but in reality, she was the one supporting me. When I realized this, I felt completely lost about what to do next. What will I do after she's gone? My mind swirled with thoughts that came and went. I just wanted her to live as long as possible. And I wanted her to be happy. Those were the two thoughts that kept coming to my small, troubled mind. Yes, I was worried about myself, but more than anything, I wanted her to be happy. The next day, when I visited her, she was smiling as always. But now, she had an IV drip attached to her arm, and it was a painful sight. Hey, yesterday gave me quite a scare. I thought the end had come, but too bad for them, I'm stubborn. So, don't you worry about me. You'd probably send the Grim Reaper packing, huh? Of course. You're still a kid at 44, so there's no way I'm leaving you behind. I'll outlive you, for sure. How long are you planning on living? I'm going to live a long time too, you know? Oh. Haven't you heard? Women live longer on average. You've got guts if you think you can outlast me. She joked around as usual, probably trying not to make me worry. Then, she quietly gazed out the window and, in a faint voice, said, "If you had a family, maybe I could leave this world in peace." What? My dream was to hold my grandchild. Haha, just kidding. She smiled softly, squinting her eyes. I heard her clearly. She wants to see a grandchild? This was the first time she'd ever expressed such a wish. She had never mentioned anything about wanting me to get married or seeing a grandchild. But here she was, revealing her true feelings. I guess yesterday's incident made her reflect on a lot of things. You don't have anyone you're seeing, do you? I do. Actually, I'm dating one of the nurses here. I was embarrassed to tell you, so I kept it a secret, but we've been together for a year now. Really? Is that true? My mom's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, she was shocked. I hadn't mentioned having a girlfriend in years. Is it really true that you have a girlfriend? Why didn't you tell me? Oh my. So, are you thinking about marriage? Of course, I'm thinking about it. I want you to meet your grandchild, after all. I see. So you might have a family of your own soon. And I might even have a grandchild. My mom wiped away the tears at the corners of her eyes, trying to hide them with her hair. I wanted to make her happy. That was the reason behind the lie I told. As I racked my brain for a solution, I knew that this lie would eventually be exposed. But I just couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. You have to introduce her to me. Now that I have the goal of meeting my grandchild, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, she said. Clearly delighted. As I left the hospital room, I felt a weight on my shoulders. Then, a voice called out to me. Are you okay? You don't look well. Ava. I'm sorry, it's nothing really. I overheard your conversation earlier. It was a bit surprising to hear Sadie say something like that. You should introduce your girlfriend and put her mind at ease. I felt a sinking feeling. As if the guilt of my lie was crushing me. The words I hadn't intended to say slipped out on their own. I don't have a girlfriend. It's been a long time. I just wanted to give my mom some peace of mind, so I lied. What should I do? I mean, I know I'm the one at fault for lying, but... So, it was a lie that you have a girlfriend? I'm ashamed to admit it, but yes. I don't have a girlfriend. Here I am at 44, still single. What should I do? I want to make my mom happy, but... Ava is probably around 35. It felt pathetic to be sharing this with someone nearly 10 years younger than me. She must think I'm just some lying loser. I quickly looked up, trying to salvage the situation. I'm sorry. I know it's not fair to burden you with this. Please forget I said anything. And if you could, please don't tell my mom about this. I know I'm asking a lot, but... I'll pretend to be your girlfriend. What? If you're okay with it, I'll pretend to be your girlfriend. You told her you were dating a nurse here, right? I think I fit the bill. Well, yes, but why would you do that? I mean, I can't really offer you anything in return. Let's talk a bit more. But I'm still on duty right now, so can we talk after my shift? Yes. I waited for her shift to end. Sorry to keep you waiting. I couldn't exchange contact info while on duty, so let's do that now. Okay. But, there's a nice bar nearby. Want to go there and chat over a drink? Before I knew it, I was following her to the bar and sitting at a table. Cheers to a hard day's work. Cheers. Wow. This is good. I have the day off tomorrow, so I might just let loose a little tonight. You seem different from usual. I don't think anyone's exactly the same at work and after hours, right? Or is something off? No, not at all. I just meant you seem more lively. You must really like drinking. You're making me sound like a heavy drinker. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. I'm just kidding. Oh, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Ava. My name is Eli. I'll get straight to the point. Why are you willing to pretend to be my girlfriend? It's not really for any grand reason. I just really like Sadie. My own mother, well, she wasn't exactly a great mom. When I was little, I tried so hard to get her approval, to do things for her, but she never really noticed me. Even though I tried my best as a child, she never turned her attention to me. It wasn't until I grew up that I realized how dysfunctional my family was. I realized that a normal mother doesn't hit her children, doesn't yell or scream all the time. And that it's not normal for a child to have to prepare their own meals just because they got a bad grade on a test. I understood that all of it was wrong. I see. Working in this job, I meet a lot of people, and Sadie is such a kind mother. It's actually quite rare to see someone visit their parent every day after work, like you do. I only do it because I don't really have anything else to do. I don't have hobbies or anything. But you still visit every day, don't you? You talk with her, making sure she doesn't feel lonely. You probably do that because your mom did the same for you when you were a child. We tend to emulate what our parents did for us. And, well, Sadie has also helped me in the past. My mom helped you? What do you mean? Did you know each other before? I've only been working at this hospital for about 6 months. I started around the time Sadie was admitted. I left my previous hospital for this one, but, well, you know how it is. There's always some workplace drama. It's something that happens everywhere. As in any workplace, after all, people don't stop messing around with each other. Of course, I've been there myself. So I kind of understood what she was saying. Sadie covered for me when I was in that situation. She said something like, "Why waste time on such petty things? You should all just get along. You're all such lovely people, so why not smile more? When you're mean to others, your faces become so scary. You're all so beautiful, so you should always keep smiling." I was beautiful in my youth too. But now I'm just an old lady with lots of wrinkles. You should all smile a lot and collect as many wrinkles as you can. My mom said that? That sounds just like her. After that, I started to really enjoy working at this hospital. So, I just want to help you and your mother. That's all there is to it. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And if you ever do get a real girlfriend, let me know right away, okay? We can just tell her that we broke up. I don't really plan on dating anyone right now. Oh, really? On the day I was planning to propose, I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me. I was all excited, getting the ring ready. And then just sitting there, staring at the food as it got cold. It's hard to describe how I felt. I'm not completely distrustful of people. But I just can't imagine getting into another relationship. But when I heard my mom say she wanted to see a grandchild, it made me think. When she's gone, I'll be truly alone. So maybe I should start looking for someone now. Maybe I should try to give her the chance to hold her grandchild. I see. But don't feel like you have to force yourself. Your mom's happiness is important, but so is yours. Ava said this with a gentle smile. Before we parted ways, we exchanged contact information. It had been a long time since I added a new woman's name to my contacts. A woman who was kind enough to go along with my lie. Hey, before we introduce you to my mom, how about we go out a few times? Go out? If I'm going to introduce myself to your mom, we need her to believe we're really dating. If she asks us questions and we don't know anything about each other, it could fall apart. That's true. We should figure out when we started dating, who confessed first, and where we met. We should talk it all through. Yeah. So let's use our days off to get to know each other and exchange information. I'm sorry. My lie is taking up your time. Don't say that. I'm actually looking forward to it. I'd love to hear more about what kind of mom Sadie was and how you grew up. Sure. Maybe she wanted to fill a void in her heart by hearing about my experiences of being loved by a mother. So, whenever we met, I would tell her stories about my mom. How she scolded me when I was little, and when she praised me. Ava listened to my stories with bright eyes. There was no bitterness or jealousy in her expression. It was just pure admiration. I thought to myself, if Ava ever got married to someone else, I hoped her future mother-in-law would be a kind person. What's wrong? You seem lost in thought. Are you feeling okay? I was just thinking a bit. Sorry. The big day is the day after tomorrow. I'm starting to feel a little nervous. Do you think I'll really look like your girlfriend? Of course. Though you're so beautiful and I'm worried my mom might not believe someone like you would be with someone like me. What are you talking about? You should have more confidence in yourself. You're a kind and honest man, Eli. I think you could easily get married if you wanted to. Do you really think so? Yes. There was a slight sadness in her smile, and it lingered in my mind. And then, the big day arrived. Standing in front of the door, we nodded to each other before opening it. Mom, I want to introduce you to my girlfriend, Ava. But you probably already know her well. I'm sorry for keeping this a secret. I'm Ava, and I've been seeing your son. As Ava introduced herself, my mom looked at us in shock, and then, she started crying. Mom! Are you in pain anywhere? No, it's just... I never imagined you two were dating. I'm so happy, I can't stop crying. To be honest, I had given up on the idea that you'd ever get married. I even thought you were lying about having a girlfriend and expected you to come here today and apologize alone. But to think you brought such a sweet and beautiful woman with you. I'm just so happy, I can't stop crying. It was the first time I had ever seen my mom cry. She had always been strong and never showed tears. Seeing her cry openly like that, I knew she was truly happy. But at the same time, I felt a pang of guilt. I had to find a real girlfriend soon, so she could hold her grandchild. I'm so glad you're happy. I've always wanted a daughter like you. Please marry my son soon and become my real daughter, okay? Oh, but I shouldn't be saying that. I've been trying not to talk about marriage, but I guess I can't help it as I get older. A look of confusion passed over Ava's face. She was happy to hear those words but also felt the weight of the lie we were telling. I'm the one making her feel like that. When I thought that, my chest tightened. I'm going to live long enough to see your wedding, no matter what. If the Grim Reaper comes, I'll send him packing. Ha ha. Be happy, you too. Yes. And so, our meeting ended. And to my amazement, my mom's health started to improve rapidly after that day. Dr. Thompson mentioned that the will to live can sometimes lead to a remarkable improvement in health. He said that a strong desire to keep living can lighten the burden of illness. My mom became more energetic than before, regaining her vitality, and within a month, she was discharged from the hospital. I never expected this to happen. I'm honestly surprised too. But I really need to find a partner soon. A real marriage partner? Yes. My mom is excited about seeing her grandchild and the wedding. So, I'm thinking of going to a singles event. A singles event? Yeah. I'm serious about finding someone to marry. Of course, I haven't forgotten the past, but I'm more open to marriage now. I want to have a family of my own. And if I do have a child, I want to shower them with the same love my mom gave me. I'm not sure if it's possible at my age, but... I see. Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. A month later, my mom was discharged, and I ended up living with her for a while. I was too worried about leaving her to live alone. But this led to a bit of a problem. My mom kept asking to invite Ava over. She's your girlfriend, so it's fine to have dinner together, right? She would say. Even though I told Ava she didn't have to come, she ended up saying, "Oh, really? I'd love to join you for dinner." So, we ended up having dinner together. Since then, the three of us have had many meals together. Ava and my mom seemed to have a great time. Seeing them happy made me smile too. But this was just a temporary happiness. I couldn't keep dragging them both into my lie. I knew I had to free Ava from this. I felt a growing sense of urgency. After dinner, as I walked Ava to the nearby station, I told her, I'm going to a singles event next week. I know it's unlikely to find someone after just one event, but I'll let you know if anything happens. Is that so? If you get a girlfriend, we won't be able to have dinner together anymore. It's been nice sharing meals with you over the past 2 months, so I think I'll miss it. If it doesn't bother you, why not keep joining us for meals? My mom would love it. What are you saying? If you get a girlfriend and keep doing that, she's going to get mad at you. You really need to think this through. Oh, you're right. That wouldn't be good. Ava really looked forward to the time she spent with my mom, and my mom enjoyed it just as much. The thought of not being able to have dinner with Ava anymore if I found a real girlfriend. I realized I didn't like that idea at all. But I couldn't keep her tied to this situation forever. Well then. I'm okay here. Please be careful on your way home. You too, Ava. It's getting pretty dark out. Oh, wait, here. I reached into my bag and pulled out something. What's this? It's pepper spray. I always worry about you getting home late. I know you live close to the station, but if anything happens, spray this at them. I got you 3 just in case one doesn't feel like enough. Ha ha. Thank you. This is such a you kind of gift. Ava waved with a smile and walked into the station. Pepper spray as a gift, definitely not the most romantic thing. I kept thinking I should have done more, like driving her home or just being more considerate. I kept questioning myself. But I couldn't get her smile out of my head. Then the day of the singles event arrived. I dressed up a bit, trying not to let my mom notice, and left the house. But when I got outside, Ava, what are you doing here? You said you were going to a singles event today, right? So, did you come because you were worried about my mom? She's home, and she'd be thrilled to see you. Anyway, I've got to get going. As I tried to walk past her, she suddenly raised her voice a bit. Please don't go. I don't want you to go. What do you mean? Are you worried that if I get a girlfriend, you won't be able to see my mom anymore? Don't worry. It's not like I'll find someone right away, and honestly, there's a good chance I never will. Ha ha. Isn't it okay if I'm your real girlfriend? Can't I be the one? What are you saying? You don't have to keep going along with my lie. At first, I just wanted to spend more time with Sadie. She's so kind, like a real mother, and she's been so good to me. The thought of someone else taking my place next to her when you find a girlfriend, it made me really upset. But it's more than that. The thought of someone else being by your side instead of me, it just feels so wrong. I know I'm being selfish, but I want to be part of your family. Eli. That might just be a misunderstanding. Maybe you think you like me because you don't want to be apart from my mom. Don't decide how I feel for me. You're so kind, and you treat everyone equally. Is it wrong for me to want to be someone special to you? Is it a misunderstanding to feel jealous when I see you being kind to others? Is that really how you feel about me? She bit her lip and looked down. I gently took her hand and asked, Are you sure you want to be with someone like me? I never thought this would be possible. I'm sure. I want to be with you. We quietly embraced and then walked back into the house together. Oh, you didn't go out? Ava. You came to visit, how wonderful. Mom, I need to tell you something. I've been lying to you. The truth is, Ava and I weren't really dating. She was just helping me with the lie, but I've fallen for her, and we've decided to start dating for real. But about the wedding and grandkids, I'm not sure yet. I'm sorry for lying to you all this time. I'm sorry for lying as well. We both looked at each other seriously, waiting for Mom's next words. Then we heard my mom's gentle voice. I knew that all along. What? We both quickly looked up to see my mom. With a slightly mischievous smile. How long do you think I've been your mother? You two never held hands, and there wasn't a hint of romance. It was obvious you weren't actually dating. I believed it at first, but the more time you spent together, the clearer it became. But I could see that you were both happy, so I didn't say anything, and I was hoping you might actually fall in love for real. Looks like my plan worked. The moment she said that, we both burst into laughter. The guilt and fear of possibly disappointing her. My mom had considered all of that when she said what she did. Whether she truly knew all along or just wanted to put our minds at ease, I'll never really know. But one thing was clear, I could never outsmart my mom. From that day, Ava and I officially started dating, and a year later, we got married. And now, there's a baby growing inside her. It's a boy, or so we've been told. When my mom heard the news, she was so overjoyed it seemed like she might just float away. "I'm going to live until my grandchild turns 20," she declared. Ava now has a kind mother-in-law, and we're about to become parents ourselves. I'm determined to do for our child what my mom did for me. To shower him with endless love and affection, to tell him I love you so much he might even get annoyed. I want to create a home where our child might say, "Dad and Mom, you're too lovey-dovey." And to ensure my mom gets to witness that, she's just going to have to stick around for many more years to come. If you can solve this problem, you can do whatever you want with me. It happened during our middle school reunion. A former classmate, who had grown into a stunning beauty, handed me a difficult math problem written in English. She used to bully me back in middle school. This was probably just an extension of that. This problem is called the Master Demon, and even in the International Mathematical Olympiad, very few got it right. But considering how much of a study nerd you were back then, you should be able to solve it in no time, right? Yeah, I solved it. Right, there's no way you could solve. Wait, what did you just say? I said I solved it. When I showed her the answer, she looked frustrated and muttered, "It's correct." The room buzzed with surprise. What? How could you solve that? As my friend revealed who I really was, the murmurs around us grew louder. So, as promised, I'll do as I please. The color drained from her face at those words. This was what you'd call a reversal of fortune. I took her pale hand. And then, my name is Colin, and I returned to my hometown after 10 years. I came back to attend my middle school reunion. To be honest, I don't have many fond memories from those days. After my father died in an accident, my already struggling family faced even more hardship. Seeing my mother work tirelessly, giving up all her pleasures for the sake of supporting me and my sister, I resolved to get a good job and make life easier for her. That's why I spent all my time studying in middle school. There was one classmate who looked down on me for it. Her name was Katie. She was the daughter of the CEO of Zeller's Publishing, a company that had expanded nationwide with its correspondence courses. She always found a way to make snide remarks at me. She'd say my belongings were secondhand, or that I was a pitiful poor kid with no hobbies other than studying. She even hid my shoes, textbooks, and pencil case. There was no proof that Katie was the one behind it, so I kept it to myself, not telling my teachers or my mother. I heard Katie would be attending the reunion too. Honestly, I would have preferred to come up with an excuse like I have plans and skip it. But when my friend Samuel, who was organizing the event, said, "I really want to see you," I couldn't refuse. But then, I reminded myself, it's okay. Before I returned to my hometown, I couldn't help but share my anxiety with my mother, and she reassured me. After 10 years, I'm sure everyone's grown up, so you probably won't hear any snide remarks. And now, and even back then, you were a son I could proudly show to anyone. I know you studied hard for my sake. So hold your head up high. Remembering my mother's words, I straightened my back. And so, I made my way to the reunion venue. The reunion was held in the grand ballroom of a hotel near our old middle school. The place had recently been renovated, and it looked quite nice. The meal was served buffet style. After we all toasted, led by our organizer Samuel, everyone began to freely enjoy themselves, getting food or catching up with old friends. Long time no see, Colin. As I was wondering what to do, Samuel came over to me. We clinked glasses and toasted again, just the two of us. Sorry I haven't been able to meet up since we started working. My job keeps me so busy. I'm busy too, so it's mutual. Is that so? Colin, if I remember correctly. Just as Samuel started to say something, I heard a voice. Oh, isn't that Colin? I turned to see an incredibly beautiful woman. I immediately recognized her as Katie. She was already pretty back in middle school, but she had grown even more stunning. Long time no see. I went to a different high school, so it's been since then, right? Yeah. I moved away after that, so... Oh, really? You had such good grades, but I figured you didn't come to the same high school because you couldn't afford the tuition. But I guess you could afford to move, huh? Katie feigned surprise in a mocking tone. Standing beside her, her friend Lily snickered at me. Samuel furrowed his brows in irritation. Katie, you might look prettier now, but it seems your heart hasn't changed. Oh, thanks for the compliment, Samuel. But you might catch poverty if you hang out with him. I won't catch anything like that. Now, Samuel. It's okay, I'm fine. I calmed Samuel down as he tried to defend me. Katie then turned her attention back to me. You're still just as timid as ever. You couldn't even tell anyone that I was the one hiding your stuff back then, right? So it was you after all, Katie. Colin kept quiet because he said he didn't have any proof. Well then, how about this? If you can solve this problem, you can do whatever you want with me. With that, Katie pulled out her phone and showed me the screen after a few taps. Samuel peeked at it from the side, making a face like he had swallowed something bitter. Whoa, the problem's in English. If you can't even read it, you can't solve it. Samuel's words drew the attention of the other classmates, who began gathering around to see what was going on. Katie smirked at the growing audience. Exactly. And that problem is called the Master Demon, an extremely difficult one that even in the International Mathematical Olympiad had a very low correct answer rate. But, considering how much you studied back in middle school, you should be able to solve it in no time, right? Yeah, I solved it. Right, there's no way. Wait, what did you just say, Colin? I said I solved it. I borrowed paper and a pen from the wide-eyed Samuel and wrote down the answer. I didn't want to use my phone, as I didn't want anyone thinking I had cheated. Katie snatched the paper from me and stared at it intently. It's correct. The crowd around us buzzed with excitement. What? How could you solve that? Lily exclaimed in shock. Everyone else seemed to share her disbelief, nodding in agreement. Colin graduated from Oxford, so of course he can read English. Though, even I'm surprised he solved such a difficult math problem. Seeing me hesitate to explain, Samuel answered for me. The voices of surprise grew even louder. Amidst the growing crowd, it was Katie who clenched her teeth in frustration. Don't lie. There's no way a poor kid like you could have studied abroad, let alone at Oxford. Actually, the reason we moved was because my mom remarried. Her husband is Mr. Thompson, the CEO of Thomson Electronics. Thomson Electronics. That's a major company. As soon as I mentioned my father's company, the crowd became even more excited. I had given up on going to high school, but my dad saw my grades and suggested I aim for Oxford University. So instead of attending high school in Japan, I went to school over there, studied hard, and got into Oxford. So, Colin, what do you do now? I'm working at my dad's company as a consultant. I sometimes take on projects from other companies as well. Wow, that's impressive. As word spread, more and more people began to gather around. It was the first time being surrounded by so many people, and I felt dizzy from the experience. Hey, stop pushing. Katie, who was standing in front of me, was pushed away by the crowd. In the commotion, someone's drink spilled on her dress. Hey! Who spilled their drink on me? My dress is ruined. This was expensive, you know. The people around began to keep their distance as Katie, her face flushed with anger, fumed. No one admitted to being responsible, so Katie glared sharply at those around her. Standing before her was Lily. She wore a mocking expression directed at Katie. Getting so upset over a little spill? You must be really stressed, Katie. I guess it makes sense. Considering your company's sales have been plummeting lately. What are you talking about, Lily? Why are you? And you know, you're really not all that impressive. Colin always had better grades than you. Yet, you looked down on him and bullied him. Just like you did to anyone who was better than you. I've always hated that about you. You acted so high and mighty just because you were the daughter of a wealthy CEO. What, did Daddy buy your way into high school and college too? Katie's face turned a mix of red and pale at Lily's words. Seeing her reaction, Lily's smirk grew even wider. By the way, Katie, didn't you just say that Colin could do whatever he wanted with you if he solved the problem? So, Colin, what will you do? She's got the looks, so maybe she's good for a one-time fling before you toss her aside. Katie's face drained of color at that. Lily then wrapped her arm around mine. But even for just one time, I'd be jealous. If you're going to do that, why not choose me instead? Unlike her, I'm confident I can actually satisfy you. I glanced at Katie. She was biting her lip in frustration, clutching the hem of her stained dress tightly. I had no fond memories of her, that's true. But still. I gently unwrapped Lily's arm from mine. She looked up at me in surprise. You say Katie bullied me, but you did the same, didn't you, Lily? You stood by her side, laughing at me. To me, there's really no difference between the two of you. Now it was Lily's turn to go pale. Ignoring her, I took Katie's hand. Let's go, Katie. Ha! You said I could do whatever I want, right? Still looking dazed, Katie allowed me to lead her out of the venue. The sky was completely dark by the time we stepped outside. I could feel Katie shiver through the hand I was holding. We arrived at the nearest station. I turned to face her. Katie, take that off. What? What are you talking about? You pervert. Katie stepped back, her face bright red. Realizing how that sounded, I hurried to explain. No, that's not what I meant. You'll catch a cold if you stay in those wet clothes. I was actually in England until yesterday. And my sister asked me to bring back some clothes. You're about the same height, so you can change into one of those. I retrieved the paper bag I had stored in the locker and handed it to Katie. After checking the contents, she took the bag and headed to the restroom at the station. I'm done changing. When Katie returned, I was taken aback. The outfit she had changed into had a deep V-neck that revealed a significant amount of cleavage. What? You're the one who gave me these clothes. Katie blushed and tried to cover her chest, and I quickly averted my eyes. I remembered seeing the outfit when I bought it, but I hadn't realized it was so revealing. Come to think of it, my sister had recently mentioned she had a boyfriend. I guess she intended to wear it on a date. The thought left me with mixed feelings. As I turned back, Katie tugged gently at my sleeve, looking up at me with flushed cheeks. My heart skipped a beat. Hey, Colin. If you're up for it, do you want to go for another drink? Consider it a thank you for helping me change clothes. Well, if you're okay with it, Katie. We ended up at a small bar in the backstreets near the station. There were hardly any other customers. Since none of our former classmates from the reunion are likely to come here, Katie can drink without worrying about being seen. After our drinks and snacks arrived, we sat in silence for a while. I wondered if I should say something. But I couldn't think of a topic. As I was racking my brain, Katie suddenly downed her drink and let out a long sigh. Colin, deep down, you must be laughing at me. The girl who bullied you so much is now in such a miserable state. I looked over at Katie, who was smiling bitterly. She ordered a second drink and rested her chin on her hand. My father always wanted a son, but I was the only one born. Maybe that's why he raised me so strictly, always telling me to stay ahead of others. Not to let being a girl hold me back. It worked when I was in elementary school. But when we got to middle school, you came along. And I couldn't stay on top anymore. I started putting you down and mocking your family situation to compensate. At the time, I really thought that made me superior. But today, I realized how wrong I was. Katie's plum wine arrived. She took a sip. You saw Lily today, didn't you? I always thought she was a close friend. But to hear her talk like that. She was only around me because I was the CEO's daughter. I bet the others were the same. I never had a real friend, not one. Katie set her glass down gently, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. My heart ached a little. I should have never gone to the reunion. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have had to hear Lily's true feelings or feel so low. I don't think that's true. Katie frowned at my words. You would have found out Lily's true feelings eventually. I think it's better that it happened today. The longer it takes, the more it hurts. And if you're at rock bottom now, there's only one way to go from here up. Katie looked at me in stunned silence before a tear rolled down her cheek. Colin, you're such a good person. To think you'd comfort someone like me. Her tears kept coming. showing no sign of stopping. I rummaged through my bag and found a crumpled handkerchief at the bottom, which I handed to her. "Sorry, I didn't mean to start crying like this." "It's fine. Better to cry when you need to." At that, she began crying even harder. The bar owner gave us a suspicious look, which made me a bit flustered. Maybe we should step outside. Some fresh air might help clear your head." Katie nodded, still clutching the handkerchief, and I led her out of the bar. The cool early summer breeze welcomed us. We walked toward Katie's house, avoiding the busier parts of the town. At first, she was still sobbing quietly, but as we walked, she calmed down and eventually stopped crying. She then glanced up at me with a hint of worry. "Colin, aren't you going to catch a train? My house is in the opposite direction from the station, so you don't need to walk me all the way. There's no way I'd let you walk home alone at night. I'll make sure you get home safely." Katie's eyes welled up again, but this time, she didn't let the tears fall. We continued walking side by side. Before long, we arrived in front of Katie's house. "Thank you for walking me home, Colin." "You're welcome. Good night, Katie." I turned to head back to the station when I felt a small tug on my sleeve. Do you think we could meet again, sometime?" Her cheeks were slightly flushed, and she looked at me with those still moist eyes, making me feel a sudden rush of warmth throughout my body. "I mean, I still need to return your handkerchief and clothes." Understanding dawned on me. "Oh, right." For a moment, I almost misunderstood her intentions. "Sure, we'll meet again soon." Katie tilted her head slightly in curiosity at my response. At that moment, a voice called from inside her house, "Katie? Are you back?" "Oh, yes." Katie quickly turned and entered her house. Once I saw the door close behind her, I headed back into the night. A few days later, I found myself visiting the headquarters of Zeller's Publishing. I had received a request from the company's CEO, Mr. Stewart, to lend my expertise as a consultant. "So, you're Colin? I've heard quite a bit about you. You're the right-hand man of Mr. Thompson at Thompson Electronics. And you've successfully turned around several companies. We're counting on you to help us as well." "Of course." As we shook hands firmly, the door to the CEO's office opened, and Katie walked in, saying, "Excuse me." Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw me. "Let me introduce you. This is my daughter, Katie." "Katie, this is Colin from Thompson Electronics. I've hired him to help us with the company's turnaround. Please assist him in any way he needs." "Yes, of course." Katie was visibly shaken as we left the CEO's office. "Why didn't you tell me the other day that you were coming to my company?" "Sorry, I was under a confidentiality agreement." "Oh, I see. Well, I guess that can't be helped then. But I didn't bring your handkerchief today. Don't worry about it." When I smiled, Katie pouted in dissatisfaction. "Is it just my imagination, or are her cheeks a bit red?" "So, what position do you hold here, Katie?" "I'm the head of the digital marketing department. If I can improve our performance here, my father will finally recognize my abilities." I found her enthusiasm endearing. But then, her gaze dropped to the floor. "But things aren't going well. A lot of people are leaving." "What reasons do they give for leaving?" "I don't know. I don't ask. What's the point in keeping people who aren't motivated? It just lowers efficiency." I couldn't help but let out a sigh. Katie frowned at my reaction. "What? If you have something to say, just say it. It's not a complaint, just some advice from a consultant. You need to listen to your employees." "Katie, are you really seeing your employees? Working with them?" "No, I mostly work alone in my office. When I do interact with them, they either flatter me because I'm the CEO's daughter, or they look resentful. It's always one or the other. That's part of the problem. Let's go take a look together." "Ugh, really?" Despite her reluctance, I insisted that Katie show me around, and we headed to the digital marketing department. As we arrived, a man hurried over with an overly eager smile, looking as if he might start wringing his hands in sycophantic glee. "Oh, Katie. What a surprise to see you here. Is there something I can do for you?" No, there's nothing. He just asked me to show him around the department. Sorry for the sudden intrusion. Would it be okay if I observed your work today? When I asked, the male employee, looking slightly puzzled, responded with a hesitant, sure. Katie, I'd like you to work here in the department today. Ugh, fine. Katie reluctantly brought her laptop out of her office. She took a seat at an empty desk, starting her work. The atmosphere in the department grew tense with the unexpected appearance of Katie, who was usually absent. Please, everyone, just go about your work as usual. Even though I said that, I understand it's not easy. To help, I asked the employees if there was anything I could assist with, and I made tea for those who seemed like they could use a break. By the time lunch was over, the atmosphere had eased a bit, and people were getting used to Katie being around. During that time, one of the female employees' phones rang. She hurried out to the hallway to take the call. The female employee returned, glancing nervously at Katie before addressing the male employee who had first spoken to us. Excuse me, she said hesitantly. He sighed with clear annoyance. Is your child sick again? I'm sorry, I promise I'll make up for it tomorrow. The female employee apologized repeatedly, grabbed her bag, and quickly left the office. I walked over to the male employee. Is this a common occurrence with her? Yeah, it is. It's a real problem because every time she leaves, our work gets delayed. If we knew in advance that she'd be out, it'd be easier to manage, he said with a weary sigh. With that and other things going on, the end of the workday finally arrived. Some employees stayed for overtime, but most left within an hour. Katie, what did you think after spending a day in the department? I asked her once the room was empty. She looked troubled. Well, I think the next person to quit might be that woman who left early today. I knew there were people here juggling work and parenting, but I didn't realize how guilty they felt about leaving early. The next day, Katie called that female employee into her office. After about 30 minutes, the employee emerged looking somewhat relieved. Katie then proceeded to call in the other employees who were also balancing parenting with their work, spending about 30 minutes with each of them. After the last one left, she called me into her office. I listened to what they had to say. The general consensus is that they wish they could leave more easily when they need to, or that they could start work earlier or later depending on their situation. I see. In that case, how about implementing a super flex time system? A what? Right now, the company mandates a 9-to-6 workday, right? With a super flex time system, employees could choose their own start and end times. Depending on how they set their hours, they could even leave during the day if necessary. That sounds like it could address the concerns they mentioned. Katie placed her hand on her chin, deep in thought. I want to propose this to my father. I mean, to Mr. Stewart. But I'm not sure if I can explain it well enough. Will you come with me? Of course. Together, we headed to the CEO's office and presented the idea of a super flex time system, outlining both its benefits and potential drawbacks, and suggested a trial run in the digital marketing department. It's a bit risky, but since Colin recommends it, let's give it a try. But if performance drops or doesn't improve, we'll stop it immediately. The CEO agreed. Katie beamed with joy at his approval. The trial of the super flex time system in the digital marketing department turned out to be a resounding success. Not only the women with children, but other employees as well have praised it, saying things like, I don't have to deal with crowded trains, and it's made caring for my parents easier. It seems the overall morale in the department has improved. The department's performance during the first month was the best it had ever been. Seeing these results, the CEO decided to implement the super flex time system across all departments. Katie and I visited each department to personally guide them through the transition. Thank you, Colin, Katie said suddenly on our way back after explaining the system to the product development department. Lately, the employees in the digital marketing department have been telling me that I've changed. They say that I used to act like an entitled CEO's daughter, but now I listen to them and actually work to improve things. They think I'm a good boss now. She smiled shyly. A look I had never seen on her before, and it made my heart race. All of this is thanks to you, Colin. You encouraged me and gave me the advice I needed as a consultant. I can't thank you enough." After saying that, she bowed her head briefly before telling me to wait a moment and disappearing into her office. When she came back, she was holding a paper bag. "I brought back your clothes and handkerchief, and I also wanted to give you a small token of my gratitude. You didn't have to go to all that trouble, but thank you." "Can I take a look now?" "Yes, I hope you like it." Katie nodded, her cheeks slightly flushed. Inside the paper bag, along with the clothes and handkerchief, there was a beautifully wrapped box. When I opened it, I found a tie. It was a deep red with golden maple leaves embroidered on it, a truly elegant piece. "This must have been expensive." "Don't worry about that. I thought it would suit you." "Ah, thank you, it's really nice. Though it's almost too nice, I might not be able to use it every day." "Then save it for special occasions," Katie said with a playful smirk. But this time, it was different. It was an adorable expression that made her look genuinely charming. As the super flex time system began to take hold across all departments and the company started gaining momentum, I was called to Mr. Stewart's office. "Thanks to your suggestion, our company is starting to show signs of recovery. Employee satisfaction is up. And we're even seeing an increase in job applicants." "I'm very grateful, Cullen." "No need to thank me, I just offered some advice. And that humble attitude of yours is one of your strengths. I have a proposal for you. Our company is considering opening an overseas branch. And I'd like you to be the president of that branch." "Me? The president?" "Yes. You graduated from Oxford, didn't you? So your English should be perfect. I believe you're the ideal candidate. Don't you want to move beyond consulting and take on a leadership role on a global stage?" I couldn't help but furrow my brows in doubt at his words. "But Mr. Stewart, what about Katie? If anyone should be the president, it's your daughter, who played a key role in this success." "Oh, Katie? No, she's not capable. It's absurd to think she could handle it. If she had come up with this on her own, that'd be one thing. But she didn't, did she? She's better suited to managing a small regional office." Though he wasn't speaking about me, I felt a sharp sting of shock and anger. "Please allow me some time to consider the offer." "Of course. I'm looking forward to a favorable response." As I watched Mr. Stewart smile and cheerfully see me off, I felt a slight wave of nausea. Still feeling unwell, I stepped into the hallway and suddenly stopped in my tracks. Katie was standing right in front of me. Her face was pale. "Katie, did you hear what we were discussing?" She nodded stiffly before I could finish my sentence. Then she forced a smile at me, one that looked as if she might burst into tears at any moment. "That's amazing, Colin. You really are something. Go ahead and become the president. I can leave the company to my father and you." With that, she quickly turned away. I saw something glisten as it fell to the floor. Without thinking, I reached out and grabbed her arm. "Let go of me." Katie's voice trembled as she refused to meet my gaze. "Let's talk somewhere else." I held onto her arm as we stepped out into the company's back garden. Since hardly anyone comes here, we don't have to worry about being seen. When I turned to face her, I wasn't surprised to see that she was crying. "Telling me to take over isn't like you, Katie. Do you really think this is the right thing? You've worked so hard to get to this point." Katie bit her lip and looked down. Then she shook her head. "It wasn't enough. My efforts weren't enough. I should have worked harder, like you did, Colin, to get into Oxford." "That's not true. You worked hard enough, Katie. I know you did. I remember seeing you studying every day in that park near the middle school. You chose such an out-of-the-way place because you didn't want anyone to see you. Unlike the school library or the town's library where you might be noticed." "How did you know that?" Katie looked up at me, her eyes wide in surprise. "I found you there by chance. Seeing you work so hard, even though you were already impressive, inspired me. That's why I pushed myself in my studies. Getting into Oxford and being here today is all thanks to the hard work I saw you putting in back then." "That's not possible." Katie lowered her head again. Hoping to restore her confidence, I gently took her hand. Katie, why do you work? What's your reason for working so hard? I joined this company for my father. I wanted to follow his advice, to be someone who could stand above others and never lose. But she raised her head, and in her clear eyes, I could see my reflection. But now, it's not for my father. I want to work for people. When I changed the way we worked based on your advice, and everyone was so happy, it made me happy too. So, Katie looked at me with a resolve that made her more beautiful than anything I'd ever seen before. It was almost blinding, and I couldn't help but squint. Katie, I want to support your dream. I want to be there for you. No, Colin. I don't deserve your support. I've done terrible things to you in the past. Yes, it's true. You hurt me back in middle school. But I've come to care about you so much that I've forgiven those things. I've fallen in love with you, Katie. Katie suddenly widened her eyes in surprise. Then, slowly, her face began to turn red. Love. I don't think I'm worthy of that. Don't put yourself down. You're someone who can admit her faults and learn from them. You're a hard worker and an amazing woman. I tightened my grip on her hand. Tears started to fall from her round eyes. I love you too, Colin. You've supported me, and I've always admired how hard-working you are. Still crying, Katie clung to me. I gently, yet firmly, wrapped my arms around her. Once she had calmed down, we headed to the CEO's office together. Mr. Stewart, I have something to tell you. Seeing the determined look on Katie's face, Mr. Stewart frowned in puzzlement. I'm resigning from the company. What? What are you talking about? You have nowhere to go if you leave this company, Katie. I'll be fine. I'm starting my own business. Starting a business? That's ridiculous. You're nothing but a useless woman with no talent. Katie clenched her fists in frustration at his harsh words. I stepped forward on her behalf. You don't need to worry about her. I'll be by her side. You, Colin? Are you saying you're going to reject the offer I made and follow Katie instead? Yes, that's correct. Mr. Stewart burst out laughing. This is rich. You're throwing away a golden opportunity to lead, just to follow this failure. I didn't think you could be so foolish, Colin. Fine. Do as you wish. Try it if you can. I'm sure you'll fail and be bankrupt in no time. Ignoring Mr. Stewart's mocking laughter, I took Katie's hand and led her out of the CEO's office. That's the first time my father has called me a failure to my face. There were faint tears welling up in Katie's eyes. I gently wiped them away with my fingers. Katie, you're not a failure. We'll prove him wrong. She looked up at me, and her face brightened as she nodded. Katie and I decided to start our own consulting company together. Given my reputation as a top-notch consultant among major corporations, it wasn't difficult to attract new clients. That's why the business quickly got on track. I had anticipated this when I decided to start a consulting firm, and it seems it was the right choice. After founding the company, Katie began studying to become a consultant herself, and in no time, she earned certifications as a small and medium enterprise consultant, a certified public accountant, and a tax accountant. I couldn't help but be impressed by her, once again. Even back when she was a department head at Zeller's Publishing, I had noticed her exceptional communication skills. She listens carefully to the client's needs and provides precise instructions. Thanks to this, even though she's only been in consulting for less than a year, she already has a lot of clients. Our company became so successful that about 6 months in, we realized we couldn't manage everything with just the two of us. So we began hiring employees. When we spread the word that we were open to hiring people without consulting experience, many of Katie's former subordinates came forward, eager to join our team. I want to work under Katie again. Hearing this, Katie couldn't hold back her tears. We agreed that hiring trustworthy people was key, so we brought them all on board. With enough staff and steadily growing performance, everything was going smoothly. Then, we received a request from Zeller's Publishing. Rumors had been circulating for a while that the company's financial situation was deteriorating. They were reportedly closing down branch offices one after another. In desperation, they turned to us for help. Katie, what do you think? You can decline if you're not comfortable with it. No, I'll go. She replied, her expression serious. So, we headed to Zeller's Publishing together. I was shocked when we arrived at the entrance, there was no receptionist. How are we supposed to meet with Mr. Stewart? As Katie and I exchanged bewildered looks, Mr. Stewart appeared from the back. He looked even more haggard and exhausted than when we had last seen him. Katie gasped quietly. Thank you for coming. Honestly, I thought you might refuse after the horrible things I said. His vacant eyes met ours before he suddenly dropped to his knees and bowed his head. Please, save my company. Employees are leaving one after another, and the business is spiraling downward. I can't think of any way to stop it. I apologize for everything I've done. Please help us. Please, get up, Dad. Katie knelt before Mr. Stewart and extended her hand. I know how much this company means to you, how you built it from nothing with blood, sweat, and tears. That's why I'll help. No matter how harsh your words were, I still love you and this company. Tears streamed down Mr. Stewart's face as he looked up at Katie and grasped her hand tightly. I'm sorry, Katie. I'm so sorry. You endured my strict upbringing for my sake, yet I became so arrogant. I used to think it was natural for you and everyone else to work for me, but it wasn't until I hit rock bottom that I realized how wrong I was. I'm truly sorry. Katie smiled and helped him to his feet. If you're at rock bottom, then the only way left is up, right, Dad? As she said that, Katie looked at me and stuck out her tongue slightly. I couldn't help but smile. Yes, you're right. I never imagined how grateful I'd be to have someone extend a helping hand in such a difficult time. I'll never forget this. Even if the company ends up going under, we won't let that happen. I'll protect your company, Dad. Seeing Katie's bright declaration, Mr. Stewart finally managed to smile. Thanks to Katie's efforts, Zeller's Publishing was successfully turned around. 1 year later, Katie and I got married. The wedding was held at a hotel near the station by our old middle school. The place where we began this new chapter in our lives. And now, let's raise our glasses to the happy couple. With a toast from Samuel, who served as our master of ceremonies, everyone began to enjoy the meal. We had invited not only our families and relatives but also friends and former classmates. The warm and joyful atmosphere of the reception made me smile. Just then, Samuel approached us. Congratulations, Cullen and Katie. I never would have guessed you two would end up married back when we had that reunion. Neither did I. Me neither. Both Katie and I agreed with Samuel's words, so a small laugh escaped between us. That's a really nice tie, Cullen. Samuel was pointing at the maple pattern tie that Katie had given me. It's the first gift Katie ever gave me, so I just had to wear it today. As I said this, Katie blushed and looked down shyly. Samuel watched us with a smile, clearly pleased. Oh, right. Hey, Lily. Samuel suddenly turned and called out to Lily, who had been nervously glancing our way from a distance. Lily flinched slightly but slowly walked over. Samuel gave her a gentle push on the shoulder. Come on, there's something you need to say, right? Yeah. Katie, Cullen, congratulations on your marriage. And I'm sorry for the terrible things I said at the reunion. Lily bowed deeply, her voice trembling. Katie and I exchanged a glance. Katie smiled reassuringly and turned to Lily. Raise your head, Lily. If you hadn't pointed out my flaws that day, I wouldn't be sitting here next to Cullen. So I'm actually grateful to you. Besides, if I hadn't forgiven you, I wouldn't have invited you to our wedding, right? Katie. Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she managed to hold them back. I'd like to start over as friends. This time, not with you as the CEO's daughter, but just as Katie. Of course. Katie beamed with joy and shook Lily's hand. As I admired Katie's smiling face, Samuel nudged me in the ribs. You're a lucky man, Cullen. Absolutely. In response to Samuel's words, I gave my brightest smile. There are some things in life that remain out of reach no matter how hard you try. But just because you couldn't grasp them doesn't mean the journey was wasted. There will always be someone who sees your efforts and recognizes them. And that journey, in itself, is what leads to happiness. That's why I'll keep striving from now on. To build a happy future with her. You can go home now. Today, we had a reunion with some old high school friends. At the request of one of my former classmates, I had reserved a private room at a high-end restaurant. We were all chatting amicably, but suddenly, that one classmate told me to leave. Just so you know, you don't belong here, you high school dropout. We only invited you because we had to. You're just an extra. As long as you made the reservation, you're done here. Oh, and make sure to pay your share before you leave. He made a dismissive gesture with his hand, and I couldn't help but feel furious. Back in high school, he used to belittle me like this too, but I was still a kid back then. But now, we're both grown adults. I see. He hasn't changed a bit since our high school days. All right. Are you really sure you want me to go? I made sure to emphasize the really. He didn't even care, just walked right past me. Yeah, I'm telling you to leave. Man, you really are slow. All right. Just as he said, I decided to leave halfway through. At this point, I didn't care what happened next. I quickly left the place. Then, just a few minutes later, I got a call, and on the other end, he was crying and apologizing. My name is Kevin. My parents run a ramen shop, and my siblings and I grew up eating delicious ramen every day. It's an old, well-established shop that's been around since my grandfather's time, with a lot of regular customers. It also gets featured on blogs and social media, so we get plenty of young customers too. I love the shop and my family. I always wanted to take over the ramen shop someday. Not because I'm the eldest son, but because I genuinely want to preserve this place. With so much competition, I plan to study business management in college and apprentice under my father. I pictured myself as an adult. But it didn't take long before I had to take over the shop. Just after I started high school, my father's chronic illness worsened, and he passed away. Before he died, he told me, "I'm not going to force you to take over the shop. You should do what you love." I didn't want to worry him, whose voice had grown so weak, so I held back my tears and replied cheerfully, "Then I'll do what I love. I love your ramen shop, Dad. So please let me work at Mitchell Ramen." Alright, I'm counting on you, third generation. And so, I became the third generation owner. I couldn't leave the shop to just my mom, so I dropped out of high school and started working there immediately. I didn't have the luxury to study business management, but I left that to my younger brothers. Since they were still in middle school, I knew I had to make enough money to support them too. I repeatedly went through the notebook my father left behind, which detailed how to make our ramen and the history of his experimental recipes. Under my mom's guidance, I became the owner of our ramen shop. Our regular customers started coming by more frequently, just to check on us. They brought us gifts and shared cheerful stories to help lift our spirits. It was a testament to my parents' kindness. I realized again that this shop wasn't just important to our family but to our customers as well. There were customers who really cared about the store, and some of them were even people close to me. Childhood friends from elementary and middle school, and former high school classmates who came to check on me after learning about my dropping out. They not only brought gifts but also helped spread the word about our shop through word of mouth. But the person who was most concerned about our family was my former classmate, Emma. She used to sit next to me in class until right before I dropped out, and we often talked. When my father passed away, and I started helping out at the shop, she seemed to feel deeply for me. Apparently, her father had also passed away when she was young. So she understood how tough it was. She was popular among both guys and girls because of her friendly demeanor and kind nature. She was kind to everyone, and that kindness extended to me as well. After I started working at the shop, she would occasionally drop by to check on me and even help take care of my younger brothers. And that continued even after she became a college student. She went to a nearby university, so she often stopped by after her classes or part-time job, sometimes bringing friends along. She became well acquainted with the other customers, and at our ramen shop, she was almost like a local idol. That day, Emma came by to have some ramen. She brought along a guy. "Hey, Kevin, it's been a while. I looked closely at his face and realized he was also a former classmate. But I couldn't recall his name. We hadn't interacted much back in school. When I told James about how much I like your ramen shop, he said he wanted to come too. Emma explained, and it jogged my memory. Ah, James. I remembered he used to have flashy hair in high school, but now, as a college student, he had a more clean-cut look. Since we were old classmates, my mom suggested we sit at the counter in the back to give us some space. I took their orders and started chopping scallions while chatting with them. So, are you two at the same university? No, I moved to the neighboring prefecture. He mentioned a university so well known that even I had heard of it, and it had a high academic reputation. And he was studying science there. Wow! James, you must be really smart. I was impressed, and he smirked, crossing his arms. Well, I want to work for a chemical company in the future. It's really unfortunate for you, though. Having to drop out of high school and not being able to go to college. I'm doing fine in my own way. Really? Didn't you want to go to college too? I mean, working in a ramen shop just because of your family. What? I mean, it's a ramen shop, right? Ramen shops don't make much money, they're dirty, and you have to work long hours for low pay, covered in grease. I wouldn't want to do that. Hey, James. Before Emma could stop him, his words kept cutting into me. Sure, I regretted not being able to go to college, but this was the path I chose. I felt like he was insulting not just my family and our profession, but me as well. That's not true, James. Ramen shops are wonderful places. You like ramen too, don't you? Emma defended me with a stern expression. But he wasn't bothered at all and continued without a hint of remorse. I do like ramen, but working in a ramen shop is a full-time job? I don't know. It's a ramen shop, after all. It could go out of business at any time. As we were talking, the ramen was ready. I placed the bowls on the counter, interrupting their conversation. Here you go, thanks for waiting. Sure, to someone like him, who went to a prestigious university, I might seem pitiful for taking over the family business. I don't deserve to be looked down on, but it's not easy to change someone's mind. It's frustrating, but I've made up my mind to cherish this shop. If he thinks it's unstable, I'll just have to make it so successful that no one could ever doubt it. I decided to channel this frustration into making our shop the best ramen place in town. I started by developing new menu items while preserving the original flavors and researching what sets us apart from other shops. I even checked out other places my friends recommended. Before long, I began consulting with real estate agents to expand the shop, making sure we wouldn't keep customers waiting, and researching ways to renovate the shop on my own to cut costs. After a few years of this, I got a call from a publishing company. According to the magazine's food writer, their survey results showed that Mitchell Ramen was the most popular shop in the area. They wanted to feature us in an article. Both my mom and I gladly accepted. Now, about 10 years have passed and I'm in my 30s. Thankfully, Mitchell Ramen is still thriving. I was at a high-end restaurant in the city on business. As I was leaving the restaurant, I saw a familiar face. This time, I didn't forget his name. James. Oh, Kevin? James looked back and forth between me and the restaurant entrance, with a puzzled expression. What are you doing here? Oh, just had some business to take care of. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, a guy like you who runs a ramen shop wouldn't usually be able to afford a place like this. This is way out of your league. He laughed heartily, as if something was amusing. I hadn't forgotten how he looked down on me in the past. But it's childish to hold on to old grudges, and bringing it up wouldn't do any good now. So, you know this place? Of course. The CEO of my company, Keller, is a regular here, so I was surprised to see you coming out of this place. Yeah, I heard you're working at a good company. Yeah, that's right. Hey, since we've bumped into each other. I'm busy now, but how about we grab a drink sometime? Or better yet, why not have a reunion here? A reunion? Part of me wanted to see old classmates I hadn't met in years. But I'm sure there are faces I've completely forgotten by now. It could be awkward, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Plus, seeing James again might mean having to put up with more of his snide remarks. I'm not really, I've forgotten a lot of faces. James, unaware of my thoughts, lowered his voice. Actually, Emma is back in town. The mention of her name made my heart skip a beat. She had moved to a place about an hour away by bullet train for her job. Even so, she kept in touch frequently and would visit my shop whenever she came back home. She did mention she was coming back yesterday. You probably guessed, but I've got my eyes on her. James's confession wasn't surprising. When we reconnected during their college years, I had a feeling this was the case. It was a bit surprising, though, that he was still holding on to those feelings after all this time. So, I was thinking, a reunion would be a good excuse to see her more often. You get what I mean? Help me out, will you? Well, if that's the case. Honestly, I wasn't thrilled about the idea of Emma and James getting closer, given the less than stellar impression I had of him. But ultimately, it's up to them to decide how things turn out. Still, I did want to see Emma too, so after some hesitation, I agreed. Officially, James and I were the hosts of this informal class reunion, but I didn't have most of my old classmates' contact information. So, he took care of gathering the attendees, while I handled the restaurant reservation. It wasn't hard, since we decided to have it at the same place where we had met before, and I even went ahead and reserved a large private room. On the day of the reunion, James took the lead, giving a toast at the center of a table filled with familiar faces and some I barely remembered. Getting 12 people together in just a week was pretty impressive. James, how'd you manage to reserve this place? This place is expensive and always booked up. I can't believe we got in for just $100 per person. That's amazing. Well, it's a place my company regularly uses. I overheard bits of their conversation. I was the one who made the reservation, but James had handled most of the planning and the scheduling. It wasn't worth making a fuss over, so I decided to just enjoy catching up with old friends. Sharing stories about what we've been up to and reminiscing about the past. By the way, Emma's really become even more beautiful, hasn't she? Someone's comment made me glance over at Emma. In the short time since I last saw her, she had grown even more stunning. Ever since her college days, she had transitioned from being cute to beautiful, while still retaining the charm of her younger self. Becoming a refined woman. She's not wearing a ring, so I guess she's still single. Indeed, there was no ring on her left ring finger. James had mentioned that he was interested in her, so she was likely still unmarried. Each time I saw her, I couldn't help but worry that she might announce her engagement, but it seemed I still had time. However, James has been glued to Emma all night. Yeah. Just as he had declared to me, James had stayed by Emma's side the entire evening. Maybe it was the alcohol loosening his tongue, but I could hear his voice even from where I was sitting. Most of it was him boasting about his work. He kept going on about landing a job at a prestigious company and his accomplishments there. Sure, it's not wrong to use your abilities and wealth to impress someone. But Emma's smile was more of a forced one. I couldn't tell if she was just used to hearing this kind of talk or if she didn't care for it. Still, she nodded along politely, which only encouraged James to keep talking, leading to an endless loop. After a while, James left the room, probably to use the restroom. Emma quickly got up and, without a word, sat down beside me. Emma. Hey, Kevin, it's been half a month, right? How's everyone doing? Oh, yeah. Mom and my brothers are doing well. They said they'd love to see you again. Oh, by the way, Ryan just landed a job. Ryan is my youngest brother. When he was little, Emma would sometimes help him with his studies. Really? That's great. We should celebrate. How about I come by the shop the day after tomorrow? Sure, everyone will be happy to see you. Great. I've really missed your family's ramen. Emma's smile was as lovely as ever, unlike the strained one from earlier. I hoped I wasn't reading too much into it. Just then, James returned. Noticing Emma was gone, he started looking around. James is back. Don't you want to go sit with him? I asked out of courtesy, but she shook her head. Yeah, but it's a reunion, so staying in one spot the whole time would be odd, right? I wanted to talk to Megan and Sophie too. But James wouldn't let me go. At that moment, I made eye contact with her friends, the ones she had just mentioned. They waved, and Emma waved back. Well, I'm going to go over there and chat with them. All right. As Emma left, my friends surrounded me with surprised looks. Wow, you're close with Emma? Are you two, like, a thing? No, it's nothing like that. She just comes to the shop a lot for ramen, so we've kept in touch. While I secretly harbored feelings for her, there was no need to go into detail. After some more casual conversation, I felt the need to use the restroom, so I excused myself and stepped out. On my way back down the hallway, a voice called out to me in an annoyed tone. It was James. Kevin. What the hell are you playing at? His face was slightly flushed. He reeked of alcohol. It seemed he had been drinking quite a bit. From the way he was acting, it was clear this was about Emma. I told you I'm interested in Emma, didn't I? So why the hell were you talking to her? He was drunk. So I tried to respond in a way that wouldn't escalate things. You stepped away, so she probably just wanted someone to talk to, and since she knew me, she came over. Now she's talking to her girlfriends. What? You two looked way too friendly for just that. Apparently, it had looked that way to him too. His eyes were unfocused. He grabbed me by the collar, glaring at me with a look that could kill. You were always like this. Dropping out, being poor, running some ramen shop. And yet, Emma is so kind that she bothers with someone like you. Don't you think you're getting a bit full of yourself? She's only being nice to you out of pity. You get that, right? There's no way someone like you, a high school dropout running a ramen shop, could ever be a match for Emma. Someone like her deserves a guy with a bright future, like me, working at a proper company. There's no need to go that far. I hadn't expected to still be looked down upon because of my family situation. Let me be clear, you don't belong here or with Emma. But I figured if you were around, it'd make it easier for her to come. So I invited you out of pity. You're just an extra, so know your place. She deserves someone like me. If you can't understand that, just leave. Your job here is done. He made a dismissive gesture with his hand, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. All right. I understand that you don't think highly of me. But are you really sure? I should go? I made sure to emphasize really. James didn't even seem to care, brushing past me. Yeah, I'm telling you to leave. Seriously, how dense are you? All right. I returned to the main room and gathered my things. Hey, Kevin, are you leaving already? One of my friends asked, noticing my preparations. I nodded. Yeah, something came up. Got it, you're always busy. Let's hang out again sometime. Sure. By the way, could you give this $100 to James for me? I handed a bill to my friend and left the room. At the reception area, just as I was about to inform them that I was leaving early, I saw Emma standing there. Kevin, are you heading out? Emma? Yeah. I've got something to take care of. I see. Then I'll leave too. What? When I looked, I saw that she was also fully prepared to leave. Why? You should stay and enjoy the time with everyone. I've already made plans to have dinner with the people I really want to see. Besides, if I stay until the end, James might try to follow me home. Oh. Emma sighed as she slipped into her beige pumps, looking a bit troubled. I overheard your conversation earlier. James was really awful to you. Yeah, not exactly my finest moment. But you weren't the one who looked bad. James did. Listening to him made me realize I wouldn't want to be around someone like that, and honestly, I've already turned him down twice. Wait, really? That was news to me. He had made 2 attempts? That took some guts. James hasn't changed at all since the old days. He still flaunts his achievements, looks down on anyone he thinks is beneath him, and can't stop bragging. It's exhausting just listening to him. Ignoring him isn't easy either. That sounds tough. Despite everything, she had still tried to be kind enough to listen to him, making him think he might still have a chance. Being popular isn't always easy, I guess. But you know, Kevin, you haven't changed either. Was she implying that I was still weak and uneducated? I waited nervously for her to continue. Are you imagining something negative? I meant that you're still the considerate and kind person you've always been, especially to your friends. I was relieved to realize it was a compliment. Though it made me a little embarrassed too. You don't have to praise me so much. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm just telling the truth. Even as she said this, I noticed that her face seemed a bit flushed. Maybe it was the alcohol, or perhaps it was the situation. I knew I should probably reciprocate with some compliments of my own, but I wasn't used to this kind of atmosphere. So I could only think of something lighthearted to say. Well, don't expect too much from flattery. The best I can offer is a free ramen topping coupon. That would be amazing. We laughed and chatted as we walked, but then my phone rang. It's James. Maybe he called you by mistake? It's weird for him to call after telling you to leave. She made a disgusted face just at the sight of James's name. However, I had a good idea why he was calling. I answered the phone, and James's trembling voice came through. Kevin. Please, come back. What? I'm already at the station. I'll pay for your taxi, just come back. But you told me to leave. Yeah, but the restaurant is saying that if you're not here, the bill is $5,000. Emma could hear everything through the phone. At first, she looked shocked, but after a moment, it seemed like she understood. So, that place is yours too, right, Kevin? Yes, I'm the owner of that restaurant. I had arranged for a special rate of $100 per person, but since I wasn't there, the regular price of $500 per person applied. With 10 people there, the total would be $5,000. Everyone had been told they only needed to pay $100 each, so the remaining $4,100 would fall on James. Come on, James, $4,100 shouldn't be a problem for you, right? What are you talking about? You reserved it for $100 per person. When I explained that I was the owner, the noise on the other end of the line grew louder. That's a scam. Well, you were the one who told me to leave, James. I even asked if you were sure, but you just walked away. I was going to explain. But you didn't give me the chance. Wait a minute, there's no way a high school dropout like you could be the owner of this place. Are you and the restaurant conspiring to mess with me? Sorry to disappoint you, but it's true. After making Mitchell Ramen the top ramen shop in the district, a regular customer who had connections in the US restaurant industry helped me expand internationally. Back when my dad was around, he used to joke that if the restaurant ever became successful, we might expand to the US someday. But with the support we received, it started to seem like a real possibility. I opened a restaurant in the US and spent countless hours with the local staff perfecting our ramen. I worked tirelessly to preserve the authentic Japanese flavor while also making it appealing to the local palate. Thanks to those efforts, the first store in the US became a success. Then came the second, the third. We kept expanding, and at the same time, my brothers played a big role in expanding our operations in the US. They studied business and logistics, all with the goal of growing Mitchell Ramen together as a family. Now, we've expanded beyond ramen shops and launched a chain of restaurants based on Mitchell Ramen. This year, we finally made it onto the revenue rankings in the restaurant industry. After explaining all this, I decided to take pity on James and head back to the restaurant with Emma. The last time we met, James, I was just using one of my restaurants for a business meeting. I didn't want to brag or make anyone feel bad, so I didn't mention it. When we returned to the reception area, we found James looking pale. He was furious that I hadn't informed him about my connection to the restaurant. My other classmates were clearly fed up with his behavior. This is unfair. You set me up. The moment James saw me, he stepped forward and grabbed my collar, shouting in anger. Just then, a middle-aged man passing by spoke up. Well, if it isn't James. What? Oh, Mr. Keller. What's going on here? Why are you raising your voice? Oh. When Mr. Keller saw me, he broke into a warm smile and extended his hand for a handshake. Kevin, it's been a while. How have you been? Likewise, Mr. Keller. Thank you for dining with us today. Of course. Every time we have a meal here, the business negotiations go smoothly, it's almost like a good luck charm." He laughed heartily and then turned back to James. As James had mentioned earlier, Mr. Keller was indeed the CEO of the company James worked for. I had known Mr. Keller personally for a while, and he had always been supportive. He was a kind, respectable man. I secretly admired him and aspired to be like him someday. "So, you know our James here?" "Yes, we were high school classmates." I see. Mr. Keller noticed the $5,000 invoice on the counter in front of James. "James, did you really splurge that much?" "I mean, the food here is exceptional, but..." "Mr. Keller, this guy's a scammer. Don't let him fool you." "What? What are you talking about?" "James, it's best if you don't say too much. He's trying to cheat me out of money." What could have been a private resolution between the two of us had now escalated, all because James couldn't keep his mouth shut. He's more drunk than when I saw him earlier. He doesn't realize that he's putting himself at a disadvantage. Actually. Seeing Mr. Keller's confusion, I had no choice but to explain the situation. After I finished, his expression changed to one of stern disapproval as he scolded James. "I can't believe you'd do something so disgraceful. I never knew you were like this." His words seemed to sober James up a bit, and James quickly shook his head in denial. No, it's not like that. I was just a bit drunk, and it was supposed to be all in good fun, you know. You can't trust someone who gets that drunk with client meetings or sales. Who knows what they might do? You're not a student anymore, James. You need to show some maturity." Mr. Keller sighed deeply, then seemed to remember that his party was waiting for him in the room. He bowed deeply to me. "I sincerely apologize for this incident. I'll make sure to visit and formally apologize later." "Please, there's no need for that. This was a personal matter between James and me. Even so, I can't overlook it. When I come by, I'll also explain how we've dealt with his behavior." With that, Mr. Keller left. All that remained was a stunned James, who watched Mr. Keller's retreating figure and a group of classmates wearing uncomfortable expressions. Later, I heard that James, who had been working in the sales department, the face of the company, was reassigned to a different department due to concerns about his interpersonal skills. He was expected to start over and learn what it meant to be a professional from the ground up. After that, James apparently stopped showing his face around our old classmates and finally gave up on bothering Emma. Around the same time I heard this news, Emma confessed her feelings to me. "I thought I had to get James to give up, otherwise it would just keep causing trouble for you, Kevin." She told me that she'd actually liked me since high school and had been looking out for both me and my family. "Since high school? Really? You didn't notice?" "I wouldn't have kept visiting your shop all these years if I didn't care about you." She seemed a bit exasperated by my obliviousness, but apparently, that was something she found endearing. "I like that you stay humble and genuine, no matter what anyone says. Whether it's with me, with James, or with your customers. But, you know, I'd be really happy if you started treating me a little more specially from now on." How could I not be thrilled by that? When I told my mom and brothers about it, they threw their hands up in celebration. Emma, who now works in PR for a confectionery company. She mentioned that she wants to use her skills to help boost my business even more. She's currently learning all she can about promoting food and beverages, with plans to apply that knowledge to our business. For someone who cares so much about my shop, I know I need to give it my all too. This life has taught me the importance of the connections we make with others. Whether it was keeping the shop going with just my mom, making it famous, expanding to the US and beyond, and the belief that our business will continue to grow even more in the future. If you stay sincere in your relationships and work, the results will follow. I plan to continue moving forward without arrogance, cherishing the people around me. My mom kept urging me to let her see her grandchild's face, and before I knew it, I blurted out a huge lie: "I have a girlfriend." When I told Megan, my junior at work, about my predicament, she replied, "I can pretend to be your girlfriend. Don't you think it'd work out well?" I was stunned by Megan's unexpected offer. At the same time, I realized that if Megan pretended to be my girlfriend, it would really get me out of a bind. Are you sure about this? Wait, really? Megan smiled and nodded at my repeated questioning. Realizing I had no other options, I bowed my head and asked her to pretend to be my girlfriend. A few days later, she agreed to come to my family's home, and that's when things started to get intense, leading to a massive shift in my relationship with Megan. My name is James, and I'm a 39-year-old single guy. Most of the 39-year-olds around me are married, with 1 or 2 kids. Some are even talking about building their own homes soon. Of course, that's just the people I know. Maybe it's different for others. I don't have many friends, and the last girlfriend I had was back in college. Since we broke up, I haven't been in a relationship. Even my hobby, which I used to pour all my energy into, I had to quit due to an injury. Where do people even meet someone these days? I catch myself saying that whenever I see happy families together. I never used to think that way, but there's a reason I started feeling this way. It's because of something my only family, my mom, said. Since my dad passed away, it's just me and my mom living together. She's cheerful, loves Korean dramas, and is a bit of a fangirl. Recently, she started saying this. James, I've been thinking about something lately. She brought it up one evening over dinner. What's up? Why this serious talk? Smiling, she looked at me and said, I'd love to see a grandchild's face soon. I'm ready to be a grandma. What do you say? Can you make that happen? What could I possibly say to that? There's just no way. It's obviously impossible. No way, Mom. Even if you ask for that, it's just not possible, you know? I felt a bit sorry as her son, but I knew there was no way I could make her dream come true. I mean, I don't even have a girlfriend, let alone a wife. She gave me a look of deep dissatisfaction. You're already 39, James. It's not strange for you to be married by now. In my mind, I pictured you settling down by 30. I could only laugh at that. That was your plan? Well, sorry about that. It would put my mind at ease to have a good daughter-in-law around. Are you even trying to date or find someone? Honestly, I'd already kind of given up, so I wasn't putting in any effort. But telling her that to her serious face would only upset her. Better to just play along for now. I am trying, Mom. But can you be a bit patient? Both for a girlfriend and a grandchild. I wanted to end the conversation there, but she wouldn't let it go. I understand, but if you don't get married, I'll never get to be a grandma. So work on it. All right. I'll try, but give me some time. I tried to keep my sigh inside as I said it. I just needed to get through this moment. All I did was keep repeating that I'd try my best. All right, I'll give you time. But at least get a girlfriend. Make me a grandma, okay? That conversation happened about a month ago. Since then, she's been asking every 2 days to see her grandchild's face, and honestly, I was getting worn out. I actually feel more relaxed at work. As I was about to head out for lunch, someone tapped me on the shoulder from behind. James. Going to lunch? Mind if I join you? I turned around to see Megan, my ever-energetic junior, standing there as usual. Though Megan is 28, her youthful face makes her look even younger. She joined the company as a mid-career hire, and I was the one who trained her back then. Megan's bright personality and ability to lift the mood make her a natural morale booster. She's popular both among our co-workers and clients. Hey! Sure, let's go. I'll treat you. Really? Yay! She jumped up with joy. We headed to a Chinese restaurant near the office. We each ordered our favorite dishes and waited. Even though it was lunchtime, Megan ordered a hearty plate of twice-cooked pork, while I opted for a vegetable stir-fry set. These days, I feel like my stomach can't handle heavy meals as well as it used to. So, James, how's everything going lately? Got yourself a girlfriend? Megan asked, taking a sip of water. What was this? It felt like deja vu. At home, Mom pesters me about grandkids, and now Megan's asking if I have a girlfriend. With a sigh, I gave her a little complaint. You too, Megan? Huh? What do you mean by that? Well, actually, I explained to Megan how my mom's been asking to see her grandkids. Megan burst out laughing at my story. She was laughing so hard that she couldn't even start on her Szechuan pork stir fry that had just arrived. Enough laughing. It'll get cold, come on, dig in. Oh, sorry. I'll eat now. Megan finally managed to compose herself and started eating her piping hot dish. After swallowing a bite, she grinned. Delicious. I'm in heaven. Glad you can find happiness in a $9 Szechuan pork stir fry. Happiness is everywhere if you know where to look. True enough. But why did your mom suddenly start talking about grandkids? Apparently, some of her close friends recently had grandkids, and they keep telling her how cute they are. Now she wants grandkids too and is dying to babysit. Megan chuckled at the all-too-familiar story. That makes sense. I get it. It's fine to dream about it, but there's no way for me. I'm about to hit 40 next year. My grumbling didn't faze Megan in the slightest. A man's life starts at 40. You're fine, James. You know, maybe one day you'll bump shoulders with someone on the way home and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and it'll lead to romance. That's straight out of a cheap drama. Like that it ever happened. We both laughed at that. Thanks to Megan, I felt a lot better and thanked her. Glad to hear that. Just let me know if anything else comes up. We headed back to the office together, waving as we went our separate ways. I made a note to treat her to another Szechuan pork stir fry sometime. Later, when I got home, I greeted my mom. I'm home. Oh, welcome home. So, do you have a girlfriend now? The light-hearted mood I had from laughing with Megan started to sink. Really, Mom? That's the first thing you say when I get home? Of course. I'm dying to know if I'll get to be a grandma or not. Grandma, grandma. Grandkids, 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 grandkids. I'd heard those words so much lately that they were starting to give me a headache. And that's when I let a lie slip out. Yes, I get it. Don't worry, Mom. I do have a girlfriend. Wait, what did I just say? Inwardly panicking, I felt my face grow pale. A girlfriend? Where? Who? This was bad. I had to take it back now. But it was already too late. Oh my goodness. Really? Wow. I knew you could do it, James. You're amazing. Seeing her probably the happiest she's been in ages, there was no way I could say, it was just a spur-of-the-moment lie. No way I could ever admit that. This was bad. Really bad. The more I panicked, the less my brain seemed to function. So, what's she like? When's she coming over? I can't wait to meet her. My mom's excitement shot through the roof, and she was now eagerly awaiting to meet this imaginary girlfriend. So I foolishly added another lie. I'll ask if she's free this Sunday. Someone, please knock some sense into me. Hey, James. What happened? Your face looks terrible. The next day at lunch. After a sleepless night, I was wandering around when I spotted Megan walking toward me. I know, not just my face, even my mental state's a wreck. Normally, I'd mind Megan's bluntness, but my mind was too far gone to care. Alright, let's talk. What do you feel like eating? My treat. Asking, what do you feel like eating? Megan pulled me straight into a ramen shop. Without missing a beat, she ordered my favorite spicy miso ramen for me. She pressed a damp towel to my face, scrubbing it roughly. Come on, get it together. I thought I saw a zombie coming my way. Sorry, and thanks. After taking a sip of water to steady myself, I told Megan the whole story. She looked at me with a somewhat indescribable expression. "What's with that look?" "Well, you really messed up." "Yeah, tell me about it." "Alright, James. I'll step in and help you out here." I blinked, stunned by her words. "Huh? What do you mean?" Megan laughed, clearly enjoying herself. She seemed to be relishing the situation. "I'll pretend to be your girlfriend. Don't you think it's a great idea?" Her unexpected offer took me by surprise. But at the same time, I realized having Megan pretend to be my girlfriend would really help me out. "Are you really sure?" "Really?" She smiled and nodded in response to my double check. With no other options, I bowed my head and asked Megan to pretend to be my girlfriend. "Thank you. This really helps me out, can't thank you enough." "No worries. I'm happy to help out, James." "So, what's the plan?" Megan and I started going over what we'd say when we visited my family. We discussed likely questions, how long we'd been dating, our future plans together, and other topics we'd need to be in sync on. "There are still 5 days until we visit your mom. We can go over things like this during lunch breaks." "Thanks so much." "I owe you, I'll treat you to lunch every time." Her eyes sparkled at my promise. From then on, during every lunch break, the two of us practiced answering all sorts of questions. "Sorry to make you spend your free time on this." I bowed my head to Megan once again in gratitude. "Oh, James, you apologize too much. I volunteered for this, and I'm getting lunch out of it." "It's no trouble at all." Megan laughed brightly, her cheerful voice filling the room. It suddenly crossed my mind. Why doesn't Megan have a boyfriend? She's got a great personality, and she's beautiful too. I'd even heard some of the guys at work mention they liked her. I was curious, but as close as we were, it didn't feel right to ask something so personal. So, I kept my thoughts to myself. "Hello. Thank you for having me. Mom, this is Megan." Just as promised, I brought Megan over to my house that Sunday. Seeing Megan at the door, Mom's excitement shot through the roof. "Oh my! What a lovely young lady. I can't believe you brought home someone so wonderful, James." I could only smile at her reaction, nearly bouncing with joy at the front door. Megan seemed pleased to be called a young lady, which I found amusing. "Oh, young lady, I'm flattered." Following Mom's enthusiastic "come on in," we stepped into the living room. "Here, James said you liked these, ma'am." Megan pulled out a roll cake, Mom's favorite. "Thank you. How thoughtful of you." Was it that she'd brought a roll cake? Or that she had called my mom ma'am? It was probably both, I thought, as I could only smile awkwardly at my mom, who was absolutely overjoyed. "You two work at the same company, right?" "Yes, that's right. James was the one who trained me when I joined as a new hire." Megan handled the expected question with ease. I anticipated the next question and jumped in. "She's amazing, right? Bright and kind, I've always been interested in her." Mom nodded eagerly. "Yes, with such a lovely girl, I'm not surprised." Megan and I shared a laugh, letting the comment pass. "But Megan, James is the one who confessed, right? So what made you fall for him?" With a relaxed smile, Megan answered. "Well, James is incredibly kind and attentive. He notices how others feel, like when someone's feeling off or unwell, and actually does something about it. Once, when one of my colleagues was sick with cramps, he made sure she could take a break." When she said that, it reminded me that really did happen. Megan had been paying close attention. Well, anyone would notice when someone looks pale and clutches their stomach, right? Besides, I figured it'd be embarrassing if I asked. So I got one of the female colleagues to check on her. My mom had tough periods, too, so I knew how rough it could be. "True, I remember you helping me out back then, James." That's what I saw in him, it's why I felt drawn to him. So when he confessed, I was really happy. She sounded so genuinely pleased that I couldn't help but marvel at her acting skills. Megan really was quite the actress. James, you really pulled it off. Well done. I told my mom we had plans, so she and Megan's time together was set from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. We ordered the deluxe sushi set, brought out the roll cake, and my mom chatted nonstop the entire time. She was obviously thrilled, and Megan looked like she was genuinely enjoying herself too. Watching them, I caught myself thinking, if only this were real. No, no, no. What am I even thinking? When it was time to leave, I headed out with Megan. My mom told her to come back again, over and over. Thank you so much for today. Oh, no problem. I'm glad I could help out. As I walked Megan to the station, I thanked her repeatedly. You've been treating me to lunch, so it's fine. I'm just glad your mom was so happy. I haven't seen her that happy in ages. I guess having you as my girlfriend really made her day. Megan murmured something under her breath. Wish it was. A gust of wind blew right at that moment, and I couldn't quite catch the words. Huh? What did you say? Oh, nothing. This is fine, James. See you tomorrow at work. With a bright smile, Megan waved and headed off. Yeah, see you tomorrow. I watched Megan walk through the ticket gate. Feeling warm and content, I had no idea. A major incident was about to unfold at the office the next day. An incident that would drastically change the relationship between Megan and me. Good morning. When I arrived at the office, Simon, a co-worker of mine, rushed over. I'd never seen him look so flustered, and I was taken aback. Hey! James! You're close with Megan, right? Yeah. What's going on? Simon thrust an A4-sized paper into my hands. There was a picture of a younger Megan, plastered across the cover of what appeared to be a porn video. My heart pounded. What is this? This has got to be fake, right? Like a Photoshop job? It doesn't seem that way. This was faxed over to the office, 100 copies of it. The sender claims that Megan, the one who works here, used to be a porn actress. No way. What about Megan? Does she know? Yeah, she saw it. She went completely pale and then ran off somewhere. Everyone's out looking for her now because we're worried she might do something drastic? My blood ran cold at Simon's words. If, hypothetically, this turned out to be true, and if it was something Megan desperately wanted to keep hidden, only for everyone at the office to find out? All right. I'll help look. I'll check the places she might go. Please, get rid of all these copies. I crumpled the fax in my hand and handed it to Simon. You got it. Keep me posted. I yelled my thanks and dashed outside. Flashes of Megan laughing with my mom, eating her Szechuan pork stir-fry with that happy, blissful look on her face, kept surfacing in my mind. Where is she? Come on, think. Gasping for breath, I murmured to myself. I sorted through possible places in my mind where Megan might have gone. Then, one place came to mind. There was a time when Megan had messed up at work and looked really down. I remembered seeing her sitting alone on a swing in a small park nearby. I thought about going over to her, but everyone needs a private spot to be alone sometimes, so I left her be. Please be there, please. I broke into a full-on sprint, something I hadn't done in ages. My lungs and heart hurt, and my legs felt like they might give out. But the thought of something happening while I stopped kept me running, gasping for air with every step. Finally, the park came into view, and there she was, sitting on the swing. In my head, I called out, Megan. But in reality, my voice barely came out, and I tripped spectacularly at the entrance to the park. Oof! I reached out to steady myself, but it was too late. I fell to the ground. Dust flew up, and I started coughing. Oh my gosh. James! Are you okay? What do I do? James? Megan frantically shook me as I lay there, coughing and out of breath. I wanted to tell her I was okay, but I couldn't catch my breath yet. It must have looked like a chaotic scene, a grown man lying face down while a woman was on the verge of tears beside him. Just then, my phone rang. Panicked, Megan reached into my pocket and pulled it out. Oh. It's Simon. James, I'm going to answer it. Hang in there, he's coming to help. Seeing me nod, she spoke to Simon through her tears. It wasn't long before Simon rushed over. James! Are you all right? Embarrassingly, I couldn't stand on my own due to the exhaustion of sprinting and the shock of the fall until Simon helped me up. With his support and a bottle of water Megan bought me, I drank it and finally felt ready to speak. Are you okay, James? That's my line. I heard you ran out of the office looking pale, so I went out to find you. At that, Megan's expression fell, clearly reminded of the fax incident. Simon continued. I made sure to collect all 100 copies. No one's taken any of them. I personally shredded every last one. Megan bowed her head. Thank you, Simon. Did the people in the department see it? Simon looked pained. Yeah, I can't say they didn't see anything. Thomas mentioned he wanted to talk to you. Will you be all right? I understand. I'm sorry for causing so much trouble. Megan bowed deeply again. Think you're ready to go back? Take your time, it'd probably be better for James to walk you there since you two are close. Just come back when you're ready. Thanks, Simon. I owe you one. Thank you. And James, make sure to put a bandage on those scrapes when you get back, all right? I raised a hand in thanks as Simon walked off. You okay? I'm all right now. I'm so sorry for running out like that. No worries, as long as you're safe. Everyone was looking for you. Seems you're still well liked. That's not really true. James, you saw it, didn't you? I nodded silently. I was so naive. It was just my mom and me growing up. When she passed away, I ended up in a care facility. I left when I turned 18. I just wanted a family of my own so badly. And then, I got involved with the wrong man. I was tricked into making that video. After the first one, he said it didn't matter if I did another, or a third. I ran away. Far, far away, moving from place to place, until I ended up here. Megan spoke through her tears. This bright, always smiling girl. I never would have guessed she'd been through so much. I was overwhelmed and could only listen in silence. Recently, I saw a man who looked like him in this town. He was looking at me, too. I thought it might be him and ran off. Megan gave a sad smile, saying, it must have really been him. I'll have to quit my job. Oh, and I promised to see your mom again. I'll need to apologize to her. She forced a smile. Do you really need to quit? The one causing the trouble here is that guy. But it would only cause trouble for everyone. All right then. I'll head back to the office. You sure you're okay? Yes, I should at least go back. I couldn't think of anything comforting to say as I walked her back to the office. Apparently, Megan told our manager, Thomas, the truth. And then, she handed in her resignation on the spot. I'm really sorry for causing so much trouble. You didn't do anything wrong. You don't need to quit. Despite Thomas's attempts to persuade her, she shook her head. The next day, she brought in her formal resignation letter. During lunch, I waited for Megan by the entrance so I could talk to her. James, I'll treat you to Szechuan pork stir-fry. When I said that, Megan managed a small smile. This will be the last time I get a treat from you, huh? I didn't respond and instead led her to the Chinese restaurant we'd been to countless times before. As the food arrived and we began eating, I asked Megan, "What are you planning to do after leaving the company?" "I'll move somewhere else, find a job, and just make a quiet living. No marriage, no boyfriend. I'll live on my own." Is that really something to say with a smile? "Oh, by the way, my mom's already asked to see you again tomorrow. I'll go one last time, then." I enjoyed talking with her. "But after we meet tomorrow, you'll have to tell her we, broke up or something. If I say we broke up, she'll start bugging me about grandkids again. But really, thanks for coming, even for this last time." "No, thank you. I enjoyed being your girlfriend for a bit." We thanked each other as we ate lunch. The next day finally arrived, our last day as a couple. Megan. "I'm so glad you came, I'm thrilled to see you again so soon." As usual, my mom's excitement shot up at the sight of Megan. Megan seemed to be enjoying herself, too. "Mom, you're spending too long chatting at the door. Why don't we go inside and talk?" At my words, my mom clapped her hands in delight. "Oh, you're right. Sorry about that. Come on in." In the living room, it was mostly Mom and Megan chatting away. I joined in, but mostly as a listener. After we finished the roll cake Megan had brought, my mom asked, "Oh, by the way, I know it might be early, but have you two thought about when you'll have the wedding?" A wedding?" Well." Megan looked at me with a slight panic in her eyes. Taking the lead, I said to my mom, "Yeah, I'd like to have it soon. Winter's too cold, so maybe before it gets chilly." Yes. And Megan would look beautiful in anything she wears." My mom looked delighted, while Megan appeared a bit flustered. The moment Mom went to the kitchen to refill the tea, Megan leaned over and whispered, "James, are you sure about this? Getting specific might just make things harder later." "It's all right. I really do want to marry you." "What? Wait, who?" "You, Megan." Megan looked at me in disbelief. Her mouth hung open, and despite the seriousness of the moment, I couldn't help but laugh a little. "That's mean. How could you tease me like that?" Seeing her eyes fill with tears, I quickly apologized. "Sorry for laughing. But I'm serious, this is really how I feel." Megan looked like she didn't know how to process my words. Her expression showed just that. But it seemed like something inside her was welling up. Her face crumpled, and finally, her emotions burst out. "Marriage? I could never get married." At her outburst, my mom came rushing in from the kitchen. "What's going on, Megan? James, what did you do to her?" Mom looked furious, her expression like thunder. To my right was Megan, overcome with emotion and in tears. To my left was my mom, looking ready to grab hold of me at any moment. I was stuck trying to handle both at once. But I knew I had to talk to Megan first. "Is it because of what happened in your past?" "Yes. That's why. I could never get married. Even after hearing all of that, I still feel the same way about you, Megan." "What?" "At first, you were just my cute junior. I loved going to lunch with you, watching you savor every bite, smiling and saying how happy you were. I felt so at ease with you." I spoke slowly, letting Megan know how much she'd come to mean to me. "When you offered to pretend to be my girlfriend, I was really happy. And as we planned together, it was so much fun. Even though it was all pretend. Seeing you laughing with my mom, I kept wishing it could be real. I started falling for you more and more." Megan listened, her tear-streaked face watching me as I spoke. Beside me, my mom muttered, "Pretend," but, thankfully, she picked up on the atmosphere and didn't say anything more. "Nice one, Mom. Just stay quiet for now. Everyone has a past." We all have things we'd rather take to the grave. But that's part of who we are, and we have to live with it. Megan. I need you to answer me honestly, don't you want to be happy? Megan's tears wouldn't stop. They kept flowing one after another. Yes. I do. I want to be happy too. I want a family, to live a happy life. I wiped Megan's tear-streaked face with a cloth. Just like she had once done for me. Then let's do it. Let's be happy. It wouldn't make sense for someone who's been through as much as you to be denied that, would it? As I said that, a realization hit me. I had passionately confessed my feelings, but I hadn't even asked how Megan felt. I hadn't confirmed if she could really love someone nearly 10 years older. At this rate, I'd come off as some reckless, out-of-control guy. Megan, I'm sorry. Here I am rambling on without even knowing how you feel. Megan hastily responded, her voice sincere. I do. I love you, James. You're kind, fun, and when you came looking for me at the park, it meant so much. I loved talking with your mom. And I kept wishing this could all be real. Her words filled me with an overwhelming sense of relief. I thought, thank goodness. Just then, my mom, seated on my left, burst into tears. I'm so happy for both of you. I don't know what all happened, but I'm just glad. Megan turned to face my mom, sitting properly on her knees. Mrs. Summers, the truth is, in the past, Hearing Megan's story, my mom started crying 3 times harder than before. Mom was going through tissues at an impressive rate from all her crying. Starting to worry about her body's water levels, I poured her a fresh cup of tea and handed it over. She downed it in one gulp and then declared, "It doesn't matter. The past is the past. That guy is the one at fault. I swear, if he were standing right here." Megan, it's all right. I don't care about any of that. The Megan who laughed and talked with me is the only Megan I know. I thought to myself how amazing my mom was. Megan's tears welled up anew at my mom's words. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks, Mom. I'll protect Megan from here on out. Megan, James may seem unassuming, but he's surprisingly reliable. Let him protect you. And from now on, not just as a pretend girlfriend, alright? Let's make it real. Yes. Thank you. I felt happiness welling up inside me. As the tears finally subsided, I realized it had gotten dark outside. The 3 of us sat down to enjoy the dinner Mom had hurriedly prepared. Though Megan and Mom's faces still bore traces of tears, they looked genuinely happy. And I, of course, felt truly grateful and content. Megan, come visit again. Thank you. I'd love to. It was then, as Mom accompanied us to the door, that a voice called out. Well, Megan. I found you. At his words, Megan gasped and hid behind me, clutching my shirt and trembling. She held on tightly, her whole body shaking. Bleached blonde hair, jangling necklaces, and ripped jeans that looked like they were more whole than fabric. The smug, mocking grin on his face confirmed it, this guy was her sleazebag ex. Mom must have thought the same thing. She was beside me, glaring at him with narrowed eyes. What's wrong? Come on out. I've been waiting for you. Let's get back together, Megan. Her ex walked closer, smirking with that mocking grin. I stepped forward. James, no. It's too dangerous. With tear-filled eyes, Megan clung to me, desperately trying to hold me back. She was stronger than I expected, clearly overcome with worry. It's all right, it's all right. Megan, come here, dear. You'll be safe. Mom stayed close to Megan, reassuring her it's okay, and gently pulled her a bit farther back. As she stepped away from my side, she mouthed, "Take him down," which made me chuckle despite the situation. Hey, who do you think you are? Move aside. Megan's coming with me. Megan's going to marry me. Was it you? The lowlife who faxed that stuff around the office? Do you even understand what you've done? I glared at her ex with all the intensity one could muster. But his smirk didn't waver. He must have thought I was some weak, middle-aged pushover. Oh, so you saw them? Nice gift, wasn't it? You're dating Megan, huh? Didn't think she'd be that kind of girl, did you? Poor guy, totally fooled. I looked down at Megan, who was trembling, on the verge of tears. I couldn't contain my anger, knowing he was the one who'd caused her so much pain. In a deep, steady voice, I said, "Listen up. I'm going to make Megan happy. I'm going to give her a warm home and a good life. You're done here. Never come near her again. And don't pull anything else, because I'll take you down, whether it's through the police, a lawyer, or the courts." Shut up, old man. Megan's my goldmine. Angrily, he moved toward me, a scowl replacing his sneer. Watch out. I caught his fist mid-swing and pulled him toward me. At the same time, I swung my other fist, stopping it just short of his face. The sharp whoosh of my punch made him yelp and instinctively squeeze his eyes shut. When he opened them again, all he saw was my fist inches from his face. His legs gave out, and he sank to the ground, trembling. I knelt down to his eye level, keeping my fist just 10 centimeters from his face, and made it crystal clear. I don't care how many times you come back, I'll be here to throw you out every time. If you keep causing Megan trouble, I'll hunt you down wherever you run, and I'll make sure you pay for it. Get this through your head, don't ever show your face to us again. Don't ever come near Megan again. At my words, he nodded repeatedly, his face pale as a sheet. He scrambled backward, crawling away until he finally managed to get up and stumble into a shaky run. Phew, guess I've still got it. I rolled my shoulders a bit to ease the tension. James, you're so strong, that was amazing. See? I told you he's reliable, my mom chimed in. This kid even did boxing for a while. He got pretty far, too, but an injury made him quit. A guy like that doesn't stand a chance. Sorry if I scared you. But after what I told him, he's not coming back. And even if he does, I'll be here to protect you, Megan. Megan blushed deeply at my words, looking embarrassed but grateful. Seeing her reaction, I started to blush, too. Watching us both, my mom chuckled. Oh my, you too. This is better than any Korean drama. Isn't love wonderful? And at this rate, maybe I won't have to wait too long to become a grandma. I can't wait. Megan and I turned even redder, then exchanged a look and couldn't help but laugh. Little did we know that my mom's words would actually come true sooner than either of us expected.